Chapter 1389. Now was still not the best time to pluck the flower of Makara. According to the Illustrated Handbook of Godly Medicine, the petals of the poisonous flower needed to turn deep purple. This was the time when it was about to bloom, and plucking it would allow the medicinal effects to be maximized. Thus, it was understandable that these people were all standing guard here. The petals changed very quickly. At first, they were still bright red, but very soon, they had already turned light purple. If this continued, in about an hour, they would become deep purple. Ling Han's eyes swept over them. Everyone here was in the heavenly body tier, and Lin Yuqi was naturally among them. According to the hourglass above their heads, the weakest person could stay here for another 2 days, and the longest person could stay here for as long as 7 days. Obviously, they had not wasted the slightest bit of time previously. They had all directly come here for this flower of Makara. They had also made use of the rule that time would not be deducted in the palace, and made some adjustments. That was why they had appeared at such a coincidental time, ensuring that they would have enough time to snatch it. Ling Han did not show himself, but rather stood at the top of the valley, planning to observe first. Lin Zihong had come with the precious treasure of his clan, and it was obvious that he had also come for this flower of Makara. Using it in his battle with Ling Han was only a coincidence. Since the Anyuan branch could take out such a precious treasure, what about the other branches and the other 3 great clans? There were probably many other treasures similar to that battle drum. Merely a battle drum was already so frightening. Putting aside the fact that these people were all carrying precious treasures, as long as half of them were carrying precious treasures, Ling Han would have a headache. Thus, he chose to sit on the sidelines and observe the situation first. After all, he did not have too strong a need for this kind of poisonous flower. He was confident that he was invincible. At most, in another few hundred years, he would definitely be able to cultivate to the eternal river tier, and his own battle prowess would be enough to overwhelm others, so what need was there for him to rely on some poisonous flower? He did not deliberately hide his figure. Thus, elites in the consummate level of the heavenly body tier naturally discovered him at the first instant, but did not expose him. They merely looked disdainful. He was merely in the low extreme, so what if he was the aureole behind him? An hour passed by quickly, and the flower of Makara had reached the best time to pick it. No one made a move. If anyone made a move now, they would definitely become the target of everyone. No matter how strong they were, if they were surrounded by hundreds of people, they would still suffer heavy losses. After all, those who dared to come here all had powerful killing weapons. This was only temporary. Soon, a middle-aged man walked out. He held a large saber in his hand and had a head full of white hair. If it wasn't for his jade-like skin, one would think that he was an old man. When that person walked out, over 10 people followed behind him. All of them carried god artifacts. There were blades, swords, spears, axes, and the most ridiculous thing was that one of them even carried a torch. Since none of you are willing to make a move, then allow me, Sherbin, to collect this Makara flower. He strode forward, followed by more than 10 people, forming an offensive and defensive alliance. Obviously, these people had already reached some kind of agreement beforehand. Now, the others were all protecting Sherbin. If there were only 2 or 3 stragglers who went up, they would definitely be instantly blasted into smithereens. Rare treasures of heaven and earth belong to the strong. Sherbin, you are still not worthy. Another person stepped out, and similarly brought out a dozen people. Sherbin's group was not the only one who had formed an offensive and defensive alliance with some kind of agreement. Then we can only fight. 2 waves of people immediately came to blows. Once this battle started, the battle quickly spread, causing even more people to join in. In the end, the whole valley was in chaos. Over 100 people fought fiercely, all wanting to snatch the flower of Makara. Obviously, there were 4 groups that were stronger, corresponding to the 4 great clans. They joined forces with their respective branches, forming an alliance, advancing and retreating together as they charged towards that poisonous flower. Fortunately, there were 4 such groups that restrained each other. Otherwise, if there was only one group, even if the others had the advantage of numbers, they might not be able to block it. After all, If they were not united, it would be difficult for them to unleash their battle prowess. Ling Han nodded endlessly. These people indeed had powerful killing tools, and could practically all display battle prowess on par with the middle stage or even late stage of the pinnacle level of the heavenly body tier. However, due to the limitation of their cultivation level, even if they were in the consummate level of the heavenly body tier, they would not be able to display battle prowess on par with the peak stage of the pinnacle level, which was the eternal river tier. To break through the limitation of a major cultivation level, they would need a saint tool to do so. In the valley, all kinds of brilliant lights shone, and a frightening power surged. Ling Han reckoned that if he recklessly ran in with his physique, it would only take a few hits for his skin to be torn open. Even his godly bones would very quickly be broken and shattered. The earth rumbled, and a massive ravine appeared. At first, Ling Han thought that it was because these people had fought too fiercely, but very soon he realized that this was not right. From this ravine, a black-colored aura spread out, and very soon it enveloped the whole valley. Boom! A massive spear stretched out from the ravine, and turned into a giant foot that landed on the edge of the ravine. Then, another spear stretched out, and rested on the edge of the ravine. Then, a colossal creature appeared, its entire body pitch black. This was a mantis, but its head was really too big. The two spears from before were actually its two giant feet. Not only was its entire body pitch black, there was also a black-colored aura entwined all over its body, and there was an indescribable malevolence about it. A netherworld demonic beast. Everyone was greatly shocked. This was not the two-realm battlefield, so why would a netherworld demonic beast appear here? Shwa, this mantis would not care about their astonishment, and immediately brandished its armed saber in a slash. Even though it was astonishingly large, the speed at which its saber struck was extraordinarily fast. In a flash, it had already charged in front of one of the people, and slashed across his waist. Blood splattered. Firstly, that person was still in a state of shock, and secondly, this saber strike was really too fast, completely comparable to Ling Han's lightning sword technique. Thus, that person had absolutely no time to parry, and was directly sliced in two. He released a tragic scream, and the blood that spurted out from the two halves of his body actually instantly turned pitch black. A black-colored aura continued to spread over his body, and instantly caused his flesh and blood to wither. The regulations of heaven and earth of the netherworld represented destruction. His spirit left his body, and his god tool was activated, wrapping his divine sense around it as he fled in panic. If he was struck by another saber strike, his body and spirit would be destroyed. This scene only happened in an instant. Everyone was at the heavenly body tier, so they naturally immediately calmed their minds. They all raised the god tools in their hands, and began to attack that mantis. Of course, this was not the time for internal strife. Moreover, this mantis was obviously incredibly powerful, and if they still did not unite against this enemy, perhaps all of them would be killed one by one. A great battle ensued. This mantis was really very powerful, and its cultivation level should have reached the late stage of the pinnacle level. It was able to forcibly resist the encirclement of over 100 people by itself, and yet was not at a disadvantage, displaying its powerful strength. Chapter 1390. The 100 or so heavenly body tier elites unleashed their ultimate techniques. To say nothing of the fact that this mantis had come from the netherworld, even if it had also come from the immortal realm, so what? If it dared to stop them from obtaining the godly medicine, it would only be crushed by them. Powerful god artifacts were completely activated. At the cost of a tremendous amount of the user's energy and even a small amount of their lifespan, they erupted with power that even made Ling Han's heart palpitate. He was extremely close to the eternal river tier. Under this kind of wild and chaotic bombardment, the main reason was that there were really too many of them. More than 100 people were wielding eternal river tier level treasured tools in unison, and even if they couldn't reach the might of the eternal river tier, this mantis wasn't at the eternal river tier either. Soon after, it became riddled with scars, its entire body covered in black blood. It burned into a black aura, rising and rising, appearing more and more strange. If it was in the outside world, regardless of whether it was a human or a demonic beast, if they couldn't win, they would just run. But here, the demonic beasts were somewhat stubborn. This praying mantis actually fought to the death without retreating. There were a few people who were seriously injured and had their bodies destroyed, but they couldn't kill them with a single strike, allowing their souls to escape. However, in this way, these people also lost the ability to continue fighting. However, this big fellow was really able to hold on. After a day had passed, it still hadn't died. Everyone's expressions became unsightly, because the time they could stay in the 5th level was limited. Not long after, a portion of them would be sent out. Under such circumstances, it was not impossible for this demonic beast to reverse the situation. Let's work together. Otherwise, none of us will get a share, someone shouted. All right. Everyone nodded. If they could obtain the flower of Makara, then a clan or a branch would become incredibly powerful. However, the strength of the treasure forest pavilion would also increase along with it and become more stable. This was the main premise, and it was in line with the interests of the 4 great clans. Everyone was no longer in their own camps. Instead, they had formed some sort of formation and unleashed their battle prowess. In this way, the mantis that was barely holding on was no longer able to hold on. It was bombarded by the concentrated fire, and its 2 arm blades were quickly blasted away. Then, a large hole was blasted in its skull. This was a fatal wound. The enormous creature collapsed with a loud rumble. Black blood flowed all over the ground, emitting an evil aura. This barren land became increasingly unable to grow anything. The alliance that had just been formed collapsed in an instant. Everyone started fighting again as they charged towards the Makara flower. Ling Han stood there and felt bored. Under such circumstances, it was unlikely that he could take advantage of the crisis to obtain this poisonous flower. In any case, he did not care about it, so he might as well go somewhere else. At this moment, he suddenly felt an indescribable chill in his heart. Cold sweat rolled down his forehead like a small stream. On the ground, there was a shadow, right beside him. Someone had actually appeared behind him at some point in time. Ling Han almost directly entered into the Black Tower, but he forcibly endured it. If this person wanted to make a move, then he wouldn't have discovered it. But even so, he still turned around at an extremely slow speed. During this process, Ling Han's back was drenched in sweat. He felt like he was carrying a mountain on his back, and the pressure was endless. Ling Han knew that the person behind him was definitely indescribably strong. Otherwise, merely a sense of danger would not have been enough to make him act like this. Finally, he turned around. At this moment, no matter how fierce and earth-shattering the battle below was, in front of him, it was calm and tranquil, as if he had gone deaf. In front of him stood a person. But could this really be called a person? This should be an old man, his beard all white, but strangely, he did not have any eyeballs. There were only 2 eye sockets left, and they were dark and eerie as if they could swallow everything. He was dressed in a light yellow Taoist robe, and he clearly had the air of an ancient immortal, but because of those eyes, he gave off an indescribably strange feeling. Ling Han's back was already drenched in cold sweat in the first place, and now he felt as if even his breathing was about to stop. This old man had also arrived. Ling Han turned around and said, "Where's my dog? Have you found my dog?" If this was any other occasion, Ling Han might have laughed out loud when he heard this, but he was shocked to find that when the old man opened his mouth, he actually had no teeth. No, not only did he have no teeth, but he also had no tongue, no throat, nothing at all. Looking at the old man's empty eye sockets, Ling Han suddenly had a conjecture that made him shiver all over. This old man, could it be that he was just a piece of human skin? Even though he was extremely daring, he now had goosebumps all over his body. He forced himself to calm down and said, "Junior has not found Senior's dog." "Oh, you haven't found it? Then I'll find someone else to ask," the old man said as he walked past Ling Han, down the cliff step by step, and entered the valley. His speed did not seem fast, but with a single step, he had already crossed several miles. This was breaking through space. Ling Han was shocked, but when his gaze swept over the back of the old man's head, he could not help but be even more shocked, because there was an extremely obvious seam, and he could clearly see that the old man was only left with a piece of bloody skin. What the hell was this? He was only left with a piece of human skin, yet he could still run around like a living person, and his strength was still earth-shattering. Moreover, his behavior was even more strange. "Have you found my dog?" It was like a joke, but no one would feel that it was funny. They would only feel an endless chill. In the valley, the elites were fighting fiercely, and an uninvited guest had quietly arrived. Han Tao, this was a rising star of the Han clan. He had cultivated for less than 900,000 years, yet had already reached the consummate level of the heavenly body tier. Of course, the reason he could advance so quickly was also the result of the clan's special nurturing, and it was all for this competition. Unfortunately, though he was extraordinarily talented and possessed extraordinary strength, it was not that the other clans and branches did not have the capital to spare. His cultivation level did not have an advantage, and even if he had brought the most precious treasure of the clan, he could not suppress the others and take the lead. Just as he was feeling frustrated, a voice rang out beside his ear. "Where's my dog? Have you found my dog?" "Dog, your sister." Han Tao was in an extremely bad mood in the first place, and now that someone had asked such a strange question beside his ear, he almost went on a rampage. However, he was a prodigy after all, and in the next instant he was so scared that the blood in his whole body was about to freeze. Who could actually get so close to him? He was shocked and couldn't help but shiver. Then he slowly turned around and saw an old man with white eyebrows and a white beard, but there were only bloody holes left in his eyes, and he was indescribably terrifying. Even if he was an elite of the heavenly body tier, and had experienced who knew how many dangers in his life, at this instant, he almost cried out for his mother. It was not that he was weak, but rather that this old man was too strong and too evil, silently affecting him. Just then, Ling Han had also been so scared that his legs had become weak. This had nothing to do with his temperament, but rather because this old man was too strong. Reading on a cell phone was more refreshing. Chapter 1392. The hairs on Ling Han's body involuntarily tightened. Then, a feeling of helplessness rose up in his heart. This was obviously the old man in human skin. Although he had run all the way, it was clear that he couldn't compare to an existence that had grasped the regulations of space. The old man had also arrived. The old man stared at the heavenly origin Tao fruit with a blank expression. It was as if he was trying to recall something, yet he couldn't recall anything. This was forgivable. After all, his brain was gone, so it would be strange if he could recall anything. After a while, the old man suddenly took a step forward and reached out to touch the heavenly origin Tao fruit. Oh no! Ling Han hurriedly retreated. This Saint King Great Herb was protected by a supreme killing formation that could even kill Saint Kings. If he was caught in it, he would definitely be reduced to ashes in an instant. Boom, the killing formation was activated, and sure enough, it unleashed a destructive attack on the old man. Millions and millions of pillars of light shot out at the same time, each of which was equivalent to the full power attack of a great saint. Millions and millions of pillars of light shot out at the same time, and it was indeed capable of killing even Saint Kings. Unless they had all reached the pinnacle level in the Saint King tier, they definitely couldn't be matched. Light exploded everywhere. Xiao, a figure was sent flying out, and then lightly landed on the ground. It was as thin as a cicada's wing. It was a piece of human skin. The killing formation retracted its might and calmed down. It was as if the human skin had been blown on, and it rapidly filled out. Very soon, it became human again, and the old man reappeared. His expression was one of confusion, as if he didn't know what had happened at all. Ling Han grimaced. That was a supreme killing formation that could even kill Saint Kings, yet the old man had only been sent flying and didn't even suffer a single wound. If this old man was at the Genesis tier, then he had definitely surpassed the pinnacle level, or perhaps even stronger. Severing mundane tier. Where's my dog? Have you found my dog? The old man asked Ling Han. Fine, here it comes again. Ling Han hurriedly shook his head, and then walked toward the passageway of the 6th level. Right now, he only had one thought, and that was to sweep through the entire space of the 9th level and take away as many godly medicines as possible. Then he would never see them again. The 6th level was finally a test of alchemy. A pill formula landed, but there were only 10 chances to fail. If all of them failed, the pill would be immediately expelled. The fewer the number of failures and the less time it took, the better the result would be. After Ling Han took the pill formula, he glanced at it and realized that it was only a 5th-tier pill. It wasn't difficult, but the pill formula was completely unfamiliar. With his abilities as the Alchemy Emperor and the low-level pills he was concocting, even if they were completely foreign to him, he would at most fail 2 or 3 times before being able to successfully concoct them. However, Ling Han didn't start rashly. Instead, he flipped through the characteristics of all the medicinal herbs in the pill formula in his mind. Right now, he had reached great success in appraising medicinal herbs. These medicinal herbs interacted with each other in his mind. Their characteristics and conflicts appeared one by one, allowing him to comprehend the mutual promotion and restraint. Half a day later, he opened his eyes. Although he hadn't even tried, he was confident that he would succeed on his first try and achieve perfection. Because he had completely grasped the characteristics of the herbs, his mind could completely simulate the process of the herbs turning into pills. He opened the cauldron to concoct pills, and sure enough, everything went smoothly. Not only did he achieve perfection, but every single pill also achieved the best effect. Not a single bit of essence was wasted. However, even with this kind of result, he only received 9 days of extra time. Among the pill formulas that he was rewarded with, there was only a level 19 pill formula. It was obvious that this wasn't perfect enough, so he couldn't receive the best reward. However, Ling Han wasn't disappointed. After all, he had still used half a day. Who asked this pill formula to be completely unfamiliar to him? The stone chamber collapsed, and the 6th level appeared before him. Gold and silver light were dazzling. This was a world of metal, and it was as if there were mountains of gold and silver everywhere. If an ordinary person came here, they would definitely go crazy with excitement. Even Ling Han revealed an expression of joy. This was because it was extremely possible that he could find high-grade godly metal here. "Where's my dog? Have you found my dog?" A familiar voice rang out. The human-skinned old man was like a dogskin plaster that couldn't be shaken off, and he once again appeared beside Ling Han. "Fuck, are you done yet? Why are you staring at me?" Ling Han was speechless. He was being followed by a human-skinned old man, and one who was incredibly powerful at that. Even someone as daring as him couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. He even had the urge to draw the old man into the Black Tower. However, he couldn't guarantee that he would succeed. If he failed and the old man became hostile towards him, then things would be bad. Thus, since the old man was only going to nag, he would just let him be. "No," Ling Han replied. He spread out and began to sweep through the godly medicines. "There's a familiar scent on you," the old man said, and followed him like a shadow. As he walked, the old man would occasionally fall into a daze. Whenever this happened, he would continuously ask about the dog when he woke up. Then, he would say that there was a familiar scent on Ling Han's body. It was like a child playing house, and he would never get tired of it. Ling Han felt very tired. After being tormented by the same question a few thousand times, he was about to go crazy no matter how patient he was. However, it wasn't without its benefits. When he walked past with the old man, the demonic beasts here would be scared witless, and Ling Han could easily harvest the godly medicines. However, the old man also had a problem. When he found high-grade godly medicines, he would reach out to pluck them. Moreover, he didn't care at all, and would eat them as soon as he plucked them. This caused Ling Han to be speechless. On his way here, the highest grade godly medicine he had gathered was only level 10. Any higher grade godly medicines had all been eaten by the old man. He couldn't steal them, and he didn't dare to. Not to mention that this old man was very easy to talk to now, and he was also muddle-headed. It wasn't like he hadn't seen him kill people before, and he didn't even blink. After sweeping through this level, Ling Han arrived at the end of the 6th level. Maiden Heart Palace. To Ling Han's delight, he discovered that the 3 words hadn't dimmed. However, when he wanted to activate the Tao within them, He was completely unable to do so. The old man didn't rush him, and he also sat down like Ling Han. A strange thing happened. The 3 words were activated, and a mysterious power entered the old man's body. However, nothing happened. That was natural. The old man was too powerful. To him, this bit of power was like a small raindrop falling into the ocean. Naturally, there wouldn't be any changes. What a waste. Ling Han almost punched the ground. You're already so powerful, so what are you still fighting with me for? Where's my dog? Have you found my dog? In the end, the old man spoke, and Ling Han immediately lost his temper. Now, even Ling Han was curious. Just what kind of dog had he lost that this old man was still obsessed with it even after death? The heavenly origin Dao fruit appeared again. It was still the same breed, but there were some differences. The old man once again charged forward fearlessly. He was bombarded by the killing formation, yet he wasn't injured at all. He lay down for a while before getting up again. Then he started to search for the dog, which made Ling Han so mad that he wanted to kill someone. Can't you use some other words? The 6th level was a test of recovering medicinal ingredients. To Ling Han, this was far too easy. Even if he had derived medicinal ingredients, he wouldn't be afraid at all. He successfully obtained 10 days of staying here, as well as 20 pill formulas. Reading on the phone was even more refreshing. Chapter 1393. When Ling Han entered the 7th level, the human-skinned elder did not let him down. He appeared again, and with a serious expression he asked about the dog's whereabouts. Ling Han pointed into the distance and said, "I think I've seen it there before." The elder immediately took a step forward and disappeared without a trace. Ling Han was not worried that the elder would fly into a rage because he had not found the dog. After all, the elder would lose all of his memories soon. This was very normal. Without a brain, how could he remember things? This was because the elder was too powerful. He could live even with only a piece of human skin left. However, his memories would only last for the time it took for an incense stick to burn. After that, his memories would be erased and repeated. When the elder found him again, he would definitely have forgotten everything. This level was very normal. There were green mountains and clear waters, and everything was peaceful. It seemed too peaceful. There were no beast roars, no bird cries, and no insect cries. As Ling Han walked forward, shwa, a tree branch suddenly whipped toward him. The leaves on the branch opened up like a mouth, revealing sharp spikes that looked like teeth. This was a man-eating tree. Shwa shwa shwa. A few more branches whipped toward him. They wanted to wrap around Ling Han and then use their sharp teeth to tear open his body and suck his flesh clean. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh. "Why don't you try?" He just stood there without moving, letting the branches wrap around him tightly and the leaves bite him one by one. However, what kind of physique did he have? Not only did the spikes on the leaves fail to pierce through his body, but they were instead broken. You've picked the wrong person. The lightning divine pattern on Ling Han's left hand activated. The blazing white lightning shot out, mixed with a hint of blue. Pa pa pa. The man-eating tree's branches were instantly broken. The power of lightning was above the 5 elements, and this was the power of a heavenly tribulation. It was much stronger than ordinary lightning. After a few strikes of lightning, the man-eating tree had been reduced to a trunk. Ling Han sliced open the tree trunk and took out something that looked like a heart from within. This was the heart of the man-eating tree, the essence of the man-eating tree. He had advanced into the heavenly body tier. This was practically of no help to him, but everyone in the Black Tower could use it, especially his disciples. Ding Ping and Jiuyao hadn't advanced into the Sun-Moon tier yet. In addition, Feng Piyun and Mu Rongqing also needed it very much. Therefore, the more the better. On his way, Ling Han also obtained a great number of man-eating tree hearts, but it was not all smooth sailing. He soon came to a man-eating tree at the level of the Eternal River tier, but it was in a state of deep slumber, so he immediately changed his path. If he provoked this guy, unless he immediately entered into the Black Tower, he would become fertilizer for it. Half a day later, the human-skinned old man returned and asked where the dog was. However, Ling Han already had a way to deal with him. He pointed in a random direction and sent the old man away. He stayed here for 3 days before coming to the end of this floor. Abundant Sea Palace. The words shone brightly, and the power was still there. Xiao, the human-skinned old man, appeared soundlessly. Ling Han was afraid that the old man would take away the power of the words again, so he didn't wait for the old man to ask, and directly pointed into the distance, saying, "Your dog is over there." The old man was confused. "You know how to answer?" He didn't say anything else, and directly ran in that direction. Meanwhile, Ling Han sat down and tried to activate the 3 words. Another 3 days later, his body trembled. A mysterious power entered his body, causing his cultivation level to instantly soar. Success. This was very strange. He could immediately activate the power of some words, while he needed some time to activate them. There were also some that he couldn't activate no matter how hard he tried. Peak stage of low extreme, he would leave this place and properly stabilize his cultivation level. Then, he would advance to the medium extreme before returning to the joint peace planet. There was no need to guess. The great medicine planted in the palace on the 7th floor was definitely the heavenly origin Dao fruit. The human-skinned old man naturally went up to act cute again, showing off his awesome defense. The 7th floor was an alchemy test. This time, it was a level 7 pill recipe. Ling Han spent a very long time to fully comprehend it. Although he successfully refined it on his first try, he only had 4 days to stay here, and the pill recipe had shrunk greatly. There were only level 1 to level 8 pills left. Ling Han was filled with curiosity. He was about to enter the 8th floor. No one had been able to reach the end of the 8th floor. The stone chamber collapsed, and what appeared before Ling Han was a misty world. The moment he appeared, he felt dizzy, and blood flowed from his nostrils. Poisonous. The 8th floor was actually filled with poisonous gas. No wonder no one had been able to reach the end. Even with a physique like Ling Han's, he couldn't stop the poison from invading his body. "Where's my dog? Have you found my dog?" the human-skinned old man asked as he arrived. The strange thing was that the poisonous gas didn't dare to come close to him, and a vacuum zone of at least 3 meters appeared around him. Ling Han's mouth twitched, but he still moved closer to the old man, using him to avoid the poison. At the same time, he circulated his origin power to force the poison out of his body. Without the poisonous gas invading his body, this was still very easy to do. Otherwise, when his origin power was completely exhausted, the poison would invade his body, and he would be dead. In the end, this lord was of great use. Ling Han walked, and the old man followed. This time, Ling Han didn't point out random places. He just shook his head and said that he didn't know where the dog was. He then led the old man around in search of the palace. Because they didn't have a map to guide them, they could only wander around blindly. After 9 days, the 2 of them finally found the 8th palace. Ling Han had some small harvests along the way, but they were all poisonous ingredients. Furthermore, the high-grade ones had all been eaten by the old man. 7 stars Hall. Ling Han didn't dare to send the old man away, so the power in the words was naturally absorbed by the old man. The 8th heavenly origin Dao fruit. Ling Han walked quickly and began his test. He wanted to know what was in the 9th level. This time, he mixed in the medicinal ingredients again, and Ling Han passed with perfect results. He waited expectantly, and the 9th level finally appeared in front of him. However, the expression on his face changed from one of anticipation to one of astonishment. This was a barren land, and it was very small. In front of him was a small mountain, and to the side was a palace. Compared to the previous 8 levels, this place was countless times smaller. Ling Han looked at that small mountain, and an expression of astonishment gradually appeared on his face. That was because the shape was really too strange. Rather than calling it a mountain, it was more like calling it a beast that was crawling on the ground. It was just that its size was extremely huge. In the immortal realm, demonic beasts of this size were actually not rare. There were even demonic beasts that were 100 times larger than this. Whoosh whoosh. The mountain wind whistled, and it was extremely rhythmic. However, Ling Han's expression became even more strange. This mountain wind was too similar to snoring. He circled to the other side of the mountain, and his mouth couldn't help but twitch. This really wasn't a mountain, but a huge demonic beast. Its entire body was pitch black, and its tongue was hanging out. It was still dripping with saliva. My dog. My dog. The human skin old man suddenly said. He reached out toward the mountain. No, the demonic beast. Chapter 1394. Taking a closer look, it really was a dog. It was a big black dog that was countless times bigger than ordinary dogs. The elder pressed his hand down, and a brilliant light surged forth. Shockingly, there were 9 halos of light surging around the large black dog's body. Then, the large black dog's body trembled slightly, and its snoring instantly stopped. The dog opened its eyes, which were filled with confusion. Then, it looked at the old man, and its expression immediately tightened. Grandpa Dog was scared to death. What the hell is this? The large black dog suddenly jumped up and rushed out. However, this space was too small, and as soon as he rushed out, he crashed into the edge of the wall and bounced back. My dog. The old man continued to stroke it. Motherfucker. Save me. What the hell is this? The large black dog immediately began to run in circles. However, his body was huge and there was limited space in this place, so it didn't take long for him to make a full circle before crashing into the old man with human skin. I'm small. The large black dog shook its body, and its body instantly shrank to the size of an ordinary dog. All of its fur stood on end as it fled far away from the old man. Ling Han was speechless. The old man kept barking my dog, all the way. So there really was a dog here. The elder chased after him. He had grasped the regulations of space, and although he didn't seem to be very fast, he could cover at least several dozen kilometers with a single step. Very soon he had caught up to the large black dog, and he stretched out a hand to grab the large black dog's tail. Save me! When the large black dog saw Ling Han, he immediately pounced over. The old man's killing intent soared. You dare to steal my dog! Tears of blood flowed out of his empty eyes, looking extremely terrifying. Damn it, this is an innocent calamity. Ling Han hurriedly tossed the large black dog aside and also ran away. That large black dog was too naughty, it actually ran along with Ling Han. Fuck, damn dog, why are you following me? Ling Han shouted. Life is about exercise. Running is healthier, the large black dog said with a serious expression. He didn't seem to be in the wrong in the slightest. Well, this was another damaged product. Ling Han really wanted to slap his forehead with his hand. Why couldn't he touch something normal? Give me back my dog. Tears of blood rolled down the old man's face. A single drop of blood turned into a lake. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before this place became a sea. Damn dog, this old man is your master. Hurry up and follow him, said Ling Han. Hey, you're the dead dog. Your whole family is made up of dead dogs. If you want to follow me, then follow me. I don't know this freak who only has a layer of skin left, the large black dog said in a strange voice as he ran away quickly. It was clearly only at the heavenly body tier, yet its speed was not inferior to Ling Han's. What the fuck? Ling Han was speechless, but he could only run as fast as he could. Woof, you wanna fuck me? I'll bite you to death. The large black dog suddenly opened his mouth and bit down on Ling Han's ankle. Woo, brat, what are you made of? Why are you as hard as divine gold? Ling Han gritted his teeth. His physique was indeed strong, but he didn't know what breed this large black dog was. Its bite actually caused him to feel a dull pain. Damn dog, let go. Let go. Woo, I'll fuck you to death, no, bite you to death. The large black dog was very vengeful. Damn dog, stop biting. The old freak is catching up. Ling Han hurriedly swatted at his leg. This large black dog was very heavy, and it greatly affected his speed. However, this dog's bite was really astonishing, and he couldn't shake it off no matter what. Compensate me with 10,000 divine gold, and I'll forgive you, the black dog demanded. Scram! Ling Han felt that he was very black-hearted, but compared to this dog, he was practically a model of morality. In comparison, the old ginseng and rabbit were completely insufficient. As the saying went, there was always a higher mountain, and the waves behind were always higher than the waves in front. The blood and tears formed a lake, and the lakes were also connected one by one. The small lakes became large lakes, and it was gradually looking like the entire 9th level had become a sea of blood. This lake of blood was extremely terrifying, and Ling Han didn't even need to set foot on it. He only needed to sweep his gaze over it to discover the terrifying murderous aura within it. This murderous aura could definitely instantly corrode him. He flew through the air, but the large black dog's terrifying weight was even more of a burden. It was as if he were carrying a mountain on his back as he ran. Damn dog, I'm not going to be polite anymore. Ling Han punched out with the might of heavenly tribulation lightning. Freak! The large black dog was so frightened that he hurriedly let go of his bite and ran away. His skin was indeed thick, but he was still afraid of the might of heavenly tribulation. Even if he didn't die, he would still lose a layer of skin. How could a human unleash heaven's might? If he wasn't a freak, then what was he? Ling Han used the star-plucking step and tried his best to increase the distance between him and the large black dog. However, if he really had no other choice, he would enter the Black Tower. He naturally wouldn't throw away his life just to keep this a secret. The large black dog was really evil. He continued to chase after Ling Han, and the human-skinned old man was right behind them. The lake of blood connected and covered the entire 9th level. The old man was far too powerful, and even the palace couldn't stop him. The sea of blood surged within the palace, quickly corroding the palace's walls. Is it time already? A childish voice rang out, lingering in the air. The old man immediately stopped in his tracks, and all of the fur on the large black dog's body stood on end. Meanwhile, a strange expression appeared on Ling Han's face. He realized that he had once again gotten involved in some strange matter. Why did it have to be him? A streak of light surged out from the palace, and the sea of blood immediately retreated, revealing the ground below. "Who are you?" the human-skinned old man asked. "You should be asking who I am," the childish voice said. However, its tone was arrogant, and it was as if it were a high and mighty true God. "Who am I?" the human-skinned old man asked in confusion. "You're the skin that I shed during my 5th life," the childish voice said. However, these words caused Ling Han's hair to stand on end. Ling Han had initially thought that the old man had been skinned alive because he had encountered a powerful enemy. However, it turned out that the old man had shed his skin of his own accord. Moreover, this was his 5th life. Had this person lived 5 lives? Wait, could it be that the 9 levels of the Medicine King's cave were all created by this person living one life after another? The 9 heavenly origin Dao fruits were all fused with something. Hiss, could it be this person's body or spirit? 9 return to 1, what kind of monster will be born in this world? So that's how it is, the human skin elder muttered. He actually sat down cross-legged, and rays of light surged around him. He was transforming into the Dao. He had an obsession. He didn't know who he was, and he was looking for a dog. Now that the dog was found and his identity was clear, the obsession disappeared. Naturally, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. After all, he wasn't a true life form. Ling Han looked as if he was facing a great enemy. This mysterious person had most likely lived for 9 lifetimes, but where did he get so many reincarnation flowers to be able to survive one life after another? Hee, young man, you think too much. The childish voice said, I've lived each life based on my own strength. However, I've only lived for 1,000,000 years in each life. I've planted the spirit of 9 lives and nurtured the true body of a 10th life. In this life, I'll definitely shock the world. Chapter 1396. Calculating the time, the conflict over the flower of Makara should have come to an end by now. Thus, the powerful elites were very concerned. Once a heavenly body tier elite ran out, they would immediately target him. They were all determined to get their hands on this poisonous flower. They had been preparing for countless years, just waiting for the harvest this time. But at this moment, shwa, 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 more people appeared. Almost at the same time, over 10,000 people appeared. Everyone in the Medicine King's cave had run out. Some were harvesting godly medicines, some were participating in the test, and some were preparing in the palace. But now, without exception, they were all thrown out, which made many people confused. It's still far from my time. The powerful elites were confused. What was going on? Immediately, someone mentioned the matter of the old man in human skin. Of course, they also mentioned that the flower of Makara had been eaten by the old man. Instantly, the powerful elites were dumbfounded. For this, every clan had plotted for tens of millions of years, but such a strange being had appeared, ruthlessly destroying the flower. They were driven mad. Where had this elite come from? My dog. Did you find my dog? What secret was hidden here? Ling Han couldn't help but chuckle internally. These people would never be able to find out the reason behind this. Furthermore, Gu Daoyi would be born very soon. Those layers of godly medicines should have been reserved by him for himself, and the 4 great clans would not be able to obtain any more benefits from them in future. Why would the Medicine King's cave open after a certain period of time, and there was a reward mechanism? Ling Han didn't know what was wrong with Gu Daoyi. Perhaps he was unwilling to be left out. Because no one had obtained the flower of Makara, the powerful elites also lost interest in checking everyone's harvest. In any case, it was about the same every time. They would bring back some low-level pill recipes, and if they were lucky, they would bring back level 10 godly medicines. Why would they care about this? Thus, Ling Han calmly left with the large black dog and did not bid farewell to Lin Yuqi. This woman was a great enchantress, and it was better not to provoke her. It was time to leave. The large black dog naturally would not leave with Ling Han. He was in high spirits and wanted to go sightseeing. He did not show any resentment at being abandoned by his master. However, it had said that it would head to the Myriad Directions Galaxy within 100 years and enter the Star Sand Martial Arts Academy. According to its original words, it wanted to catch a few beautiful female fairies for it to ride on. Very dirty. Ling Han knew that this large black dog was not a good person, and he really wanted to throw the old ginseng and rabbit into it as well. That way, they could form a group of 3 demons. However, with this large black dog's personality, it probably wouldn't be long before the rabbit would be cooked, and the old ginseng would be cooked. He dispelled this thought, took out the cloud-piercing shuttle, and tore through the sky, heading towards the boundless starry sky. This signified the beginning of a 2-year interstellar journey. With the galactic coordinates, the cloud-piercing shuttle could fly on its own. Ling Han entered into the Black Tower. He wanted to round out his cultivation level, and then break through to the medium extreme. Inside the Black Tower, everyone had made great progress. Ding Ping had already reached the peak stage of the pinnacle level of the mountain river tier, while Jiao Yao had touched the threshold of the pinnacle level. However, though Feng Peyun and Mu Rongqing had both reached the consummate level of the mountain river tier, they could not touch the threshold of the pinnacle level no matter what. Talent in martial art was indeed very important. If breaking through to the pinnacle level required 1% talent and 99% effort, then without this bit of talent, it would be useless no matter how much effort you put in. Feng Peyun and Mu Rongqing were in such a situation. They had reached a bottleneck. Seeing that Ling Han, and even his 2 disciples, had entered into the pinnacle level, they could only pace back and forth outside the door. None of them wanted to lose. However, there were some things that could not be completed just by holding back. A bit of talent separated innumerable people. Ling Han did not force his 2 brothers to give up on breaking through to the pinnacle level. This path was their own, and no matter what choice the people around him made, he would only silently support them. The Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden was still some distance away from the heavenly body tier. Perhaps she would naturally succeed after comprehending for another 2 years under the reincarnation tree. After all, there was a former saint who would occasionally give her some pointers. The notionless saint naturally advanced the fastest. Right now, he had already rushed to the high extreme of the mountain river tier. This was admittedly because he had once been a saint, and there were no bottlenecks in his cultivation. He also had the support of a large number of alchemical pills. However, more importantly, it should be because his 5-element physique had come into play. Though this would cause the descent of immortal blight to increase tenfold, the effects on his cultivation were also incredibly outstanding. This caused even Ling Han to become slightly envious, and he wanted to change his body. Of course, This was only a momentary impulse. Ling Han began to cultivate diligently, but he did not go into complete seclusion. Sometimes he would comprehend the great Tao, and other times he would study alchemy. After all, he was only breaking through a minor level, so it would not be too difficult. Under the reincarnation tree, Ling Han spent 2 months before finally completely mastering the refinement of the flying fire pill. Although this was a level 10 godly medicine, it wasn't meant to be consumed. Instead, it was meant to be used as a weapon, so the refinement process was also very different. As long as one grasped the correct method, the refinement process would be very fast. As Ling Han comprehended his cultivation level, he also refined flying fire pills. The number of flying fire pills gradually increased, and only when all of the exploding fruits had been consumed did Ling Han stop, and he began to comprehend his cultivation level again. Half a year later, he was the first to break through. The cloud-piercing shuttle stopped in the galaxy, and Ling Han went out to face the heavenly tribulation. After experiencing the torture of shattering his own godly bones, he advanced to the medium extreme of the heavenly body tier. Meanwhile, the divine demon sword was also baptized by the heavenly tribulation again, and its murderous aura became even stronger. Afterwards, there was a continuous stream of people breaking through in the Black Tower, and they experienced the heavenly tribulation one after another. Those who had broken through to the Sun-Moon tier would only need to advance a minor level to swallow 4 berserk blood spirit pills, and they would directly reach the pinnacle level. Moreover, 12 years in the real world and 5,000 years of comprehension under the reincarnation tree were more than enough to accumulate enough comprehension to break through to the next minor level. Though it had only been 2 years, everyone in the Black Tower had advanced greatly in strength. Now that the 5 elements in the Black Tower were complete, Ling Han began to comprehend the various mystical techniques of the indestructible Heaven Scroll. According to what Small Tower had said, as long as he completely comprehended these mystical techniques and circulated them at full power, he would even be able to block a strike from a Genesis tier. Of course, he could only block it for a moment. This was already very unreasonable. This was a Genesis tier. That was a saint. With a single strike, even Eternal River tier elites could only die on the spot, yet he, a Heavenly Body tier elite, could block the strike. Moreover, he had also grasped rising from the ashes, so he could resurrect himself after dying. That meant that he could block 2 attacks from a Genesis tier elite. There's no justice in this. Ling Han focused all of his attention on this, but even with the help of the reincarnation tree, he had only reached small accomplishment when he arrived on the Joint Peace Planet. It was not enough to block a strike from a Genesis tier, but he could withstand the attack of an Eternal River tier, even if it was at the consummate level. As the cloud-piercing shuttle descended, Ling Han let out a long howl as he stared at this familiar yet strange sky. Embark. Chapter 1397. Everyone came out from the Black Tower, and after cultivating for so many years, they naturally needed to relax. Constant cultivation was not the best method of cultivation. Because the cloud-piercing shuttle was actually a starship now, it was suitable for flying in the galaxy, but if it flew on a planet, it was extremely difficult to control its landing point. They landed in the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire, which made Ling Han feel both familiar and unfamiliar. Familiar because this was Joint Peace Planet, and unfamiliar because this was the territory of the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire, which he had never been here before. With Ling Han's current strength, it was enough for him to do as he pleased in this majestic empire. As long as the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire did not appear, he basically had no opponent. However, Ling Han did not want to cause trouble. After he found a direction, he hurried towards the chaotic star's majestic empire. He had not seen the Empress for so many years, and he somewhat missed her. The heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden was jealous, and could not help but pinch his waist again. She had Ling Han say many good words to appease this jealous jar. Ling Han was not worried that there would be any conflict between the 2 women in the future, mainly because the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire was too domineering. Aside from Hu Niu, all women would probably be intimidated by her, fully deserving of the title of Big Sister. With such a mistress of the harem overseeing, it was guaranteed that there would be no chaos. However, am I really going to start a harem? Ling Han asked himself, and couldn't help but grimace. Though there were only 2 real wives, the heavenly phoenix divine maiden naturally had to be taken. She had already used the title of the widow of the Ling family for tens of thousands of years, so how could he let her down? The empress was incomparably beautiful, and Ling Han had to admit that he was very moved and did not want to give up. That was 4. If it was the celestial realm, he could not let down Lu Yutong and Li Sichuan. If he dared to abandon them, he would probably be driven out of the clan by his parents. 6. And Hu Niu, this little girl was obviously determined to marry him and was very clingy. He probably could not get rid of her no matter what. Just 7, no more than that, Ling Han said as he counted on his fingers. The group walked within the borders of the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire. They didn't startle anyone, and were very low-key. 3 days later, they arrived at a small town, but this place was obviously a little abnormal. There were a lot of people and there were a lot of experts. This elite was relative to the entire standard of the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire. Heavenly Body tier elites were the ultimate elites, and Sun Moon tier elites could be called elites. Thus, the elites here were all Sun Moon tier elites. Ling Han naturally wouldn't take it to heart. Let alone Joint Peace Planet, there weren't many experts in the entire star field that required his attention. Coincidentally, the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden and Ding Ping actually both broke through at this time, so Ling Han and his group could only stop and wait. The 2 of them went to an uninhabited area and released the restrictions on their cultivation to attract the heavenly tribulation. The rest of them found a tea house and sat down. The heavenly tribulation would take half a day. Including the time needed to go back and forth and adjust, it would still take about a day. Therefore, they decided to sit down. Moreover, the tea house was also a good place to gather information. Ling Han had also left for many years, and added with the fact that this place was obviously abnormal, there was no harm in listening. True enough, there were many people here. Very soon, Ling Han found out the reason why this place was so lively. That was because a treasure was about to be born here. As for what it was exactly, he still didn't know. In the recent few months, there had been a grand light that soared into the skies from underground, but its exact location was still unclear. Thus, more and more elites came over after receiving the news. Master, should we go and join in the fun as well? Jiang Yefeng asked, his face filled with excitement. He was a show-off. He had gotten married and had a daughter. 10,000 years had passed, but he hadn't changed in the slightest. Chen Ruijing and the others were also eager to make a move. On Cloud Apex Planet, they could only be called elites, but here, they were qualified to be called elites. This caused their confidence to skyrocket, and they very much wanted to show off. Ling Han thought for a moment and said, "There's nothing to do anyway. Go, but you have to come back after a day." "Yes, Master." Chen Ruijing and the others even dragged Jiuyao along. This little junior brother's cultivation level had advanced terrifyingly, and he was only a hair's breadth away from the peak stage of the pinnacle level. He could just barely be considered an elite of the Sun Moon tier. Qin Yi, Yuan Qinghe, and the others also followed. In any case, they were going to broaden their horizons. "Grandmaster, I'm going to play with Rabbit and Ginseng." Jiang Qiaoling's personality was the same as her father's. She was also completely unable to calm down. Ling Han waved her off, appearing to be completely unconcerned. Meanwhile, Ling Han sipped tea with his 2 elder brothers and discussed martial art, attempting to give them a flash of inspiration, suddenly enlightened, and comprehend the profound secrets of the pinnacle level. But 4-star geniuses were very rare. What more pinnacle level? Ling Han sighed internally. Talent was really very important, and the higher one's cultivation level, the more obvious it was. According to that, Gu Daoi really couldn't be weak. He had cultivated the fruit of 10 lives with the body of 9 lives, and Great Saint level and Immortal level had participated in the reforging of his physique. What kind of astonishing physique would be nurtured from this? That's why my fighting spirit has been ignited. Otherwise, what meaning would there be in sweeping over those in the same cultivation level as me? It's really lonely to not have many opponents in life. Ling Han thought. He wasn't inferior, either. The indestructible Heaven's Scroll was his powerful trump card, and his grasp of Heaven's might was becoming more and more proficient. Added with the strength of the divine demon sword, it was really very difficult to believe that there would be anyone in the same cultivation level that could match him. Less than half a day later, Jiang Qiaoling actually returned with Rabbit and the old ginseng. Ling Han was very surprised. These three people had actually returned so early. This was not normal. His eyes swept over them, and Jiang Qiaoling, Rabbit, and the others all evaded his gaze, not daring to meet his eyes. Ling Han immediately knew that something was wrong and asked, "What is it? Have you gotten into trouble?" Jiang Qiaoling was not afraid of her ancestor, Ling Han. The main reason was that Ling Han was too young, even younger than her, but she dared not be impudent. In her heart, Ling Han was more of a dignified elder brother. "Little Han, this time, it's not Xiao Qiao's fault. There was a bastard that actually wanted to molest Xiao Qiao." Grandpa Ginseng and Brother Rabbit were naturally enraged, and each of us kicked one of that idiot's balls until they burst, the old Ginseng said carelessly. This bastard lost 2 balls, so he's not Wang's 6 balls anymore. Rabbit laughed loudly. Ling Han had always been protective of his own, so he nodded and said, "Since that's the case, then we naturally won't blame you." "Well done. We don't bully others, but we can't be bullied by others either." How arrogant. A cold laugh traveled out from the entrance of the tea house. This voice is so familiar, someone exclaimed in surprise. "Nonsense, this is the 7th tiger of the Wang clan." "What, Wang Chuanqi?" "Run, once 7th tiger Wang arrives, blood will definitely flow like a river." In an instant, all the other customers in the tea house instantly fled. Ling Han and the others were on the 1st floor, so they only needed to look towards the entrance to see who had arrived. It was a man with a sturdy build, and a complete tiger skin was draped over his body. It could be seen that a lifelike tiger head was draped over his head, and he exuded a savage air. "You beat up a member of my Wang clan, and you still want to leave?" Wang Chuanqi said coldly. Chapter 1398. The Wang clan was not from this town, but rather from a large city. The ancestor of the Wang clan, Wang Hao, was only over 2 million years old this year, and had already cultivated to the consummate level of the Sun-Moon tier. In the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire, this was already a first-rate force, so the Heavenly Body tier was naturally a top-tier force. Generally speaking, the higher one's strength, the fewer offspring they would have. This was the condensation of one's own essence, and added with the fact that cultivation was originally going against the heavens, they would suffer backlash from the heaven and earth. Thus, it was very difficult for them to have offspring. Many people could not have offspring in tens of millions of years, and this was not strange at all, but this ancestor of the Wang clan did not have any problems in this aspect. He had a total of 11 sons, and each son was especially fertile. The martial art talent of these 11 sons was also extraordinary. 9 of them had advanced into the Sun-Moon tier, and the 2 that ranked at the bottom were only a hair's breadth away, and were called the 11 Tigers of the Wang clan. This time, the 11 Tigers of the Wang clan were all mobilized, coming here to fight for the treasure. However, because the treasure had not appeared yet, only 5 of the tigers went to wait, and the rest stayed in the town to recuperate. The 11 tigers were mobilized, and brought along a great many juniors to let them see for themselves that the one who had taken liberties with Jiang Qiaoling and had his nuts kicked was Wang Chuanqi's own grandson. How could Wang Chuanqi tolerate his grandson's nuts being shot and sent flying? He immediately charged over. He was not a reckless person, but Ling Han's aura was not obvious, and he was like an ordinary person, but the cultivation level of the people beside him was only in the mountain river tier. Then these people mixed together. They were obviously all in the mountain river tier. A minor character in the mountain river tier dared to provoke the Wang clan? Ling Han swept a glance over, and then withdrew his gaze. Wang Chuanqi was only in the low extreme of the Sun-Moon tier, and he did not even have the interest to make a move. He waved his hand and said, "Take care of your juniors, or it won't be so easy." Wang Chuanqi couldn't help but fly into a rage. "You're too arrogant, aren't you?" He swept a menacing gaze over Ling Han and the others and said, "Humph, Since you guys are so stubborn, then I'll kill all of you, and this woman will be my grandson's servant. He pointed at Jiang Qiaoling. This was all because of this bitch. You really don't know what's good for you. It's your fortune to be fucked by your own grandson, but you actually dare to not appreciate it and even hurt him. He was completely unbridled and immediately charged over. In his eyes, these were only a bunch of weaklings at the mountain river tier, and he could kill them all with a single move. Ling Han sighed and said, "If I make a move against you, people will say that I'm bullying the weak." However, when it was time to make a move, he wouldn't hesitate in the slightest. Pu, Wang Chuanxi was immediately blasted apart, transforming into a rain of blood. With another wave of his hand, the rain of blood was burned to nothingness, turning into essence energy and returning to heaven and earth. It was as if this person had never existed. "Grandmaster is mighty," Jiang Qiaoling hurriedly flattered. "That's because Grandpa Ginseng taught him well." The old ginseng jumped onto Ling Han's shoulder and boasted shamelessly. "I haven't eaten ginseng soup for a long time," Ling Han said deliberately. The old ginseng clearly knew that Ling Han was joking, but he was still so frightened that all the hairs on his body stood on end. He hurriedly ran onto Jiang Qiaoling's shoulder, not daring to be together with this demon king Ling Han. He, as well as that little girl from the celestial realm, were both super gluttons. There was nothing that they didn't dare to eat. The seventh tiger of the Wang clan had been killed. This was a major matter, and instantly caused a great commotion in the town. "Master, we've snatched a treasure." After a while, Qin Ruijing and the others returned, holding a black wooden sword in their hands. It looked like a stick used to pluck coal, and there were many nicks on it. How could it look like a treasure at all? "You guys snatched this thing?" Ling Han's face involuntarily twitched slightly. "Master, don't say that this thing looks ugly, but none of us can break it," Zhu Yao said. Ling Han was astonished. He made a grabbing motion in the air, and the wooden sword was taken by him. With a casual slash, pa, a table was instantly shattered into pieces. However, Ling Han's brow furrowed. This had not been broken by the wooden sword. Rather, he had concentrated his strength and directly caused the table to collapse. It could only be said that this wooden sword was indeed very sturdy. At least, it could withstand Ling Han's strength. Ling Han tried to break this wooden sword, but this time, he was truly astonished. Even with his strength, he actually could not do anything. Just based on this point alone, it could be called a treasure. At least, it was sufficiently sturdy. "Put down the treasured sword." Big brother, second brother, third brother. At this moment, two groups of people arrived at the tea house at the same time. "A sixth brother, eighth brother, ninth brother, why have you guys come? Did you get the news?" "Not good, seventh brother has been killed." "What?" Coincidentally, these two groups of people were both from the Wang clan. It was just that one group had participated in the fight for the treasure and had now chased over. The other group was the Wang clan's people who had stayed behind. After learning that seventh brother had been killed, they had rushed over to take revenge. In the tea house, there was only Ling Han's group, so it was too easy to identify them. "Hand over the treasured sword, kneel down, and accept your death. I can let you die a quick death," De Hu of the Wang clan said menacingly. They had run amok for millions of years, and this was the first time that a brother had been killed. This made him furious. He was already in the high extreme of the Sun-Moon tier, and was only slightly inferior to his father. He had enough confidence. "Who do you think you are? How dare you speak to my master like that?" Chen Ruijing was the first to step out. The tigers of the Wang clan couldn't help but be surprised. That was because Ling Han's aura was restrained, and he looked very ordinary. How could he have a disciple in the Sun-Moon tier? But so what? Whoever touched a member of the Wang clan could only die. Just at this moment, more people ran over. They were all those who had participated in the fight for the treasure and failed. After learning that Qin Ruijing and his group had come with the treasure, they naturally all chased over. "Hand over the treasure." At least a few hundred people shouted, and more people rushed over. They didn't hurry to hide after taking the treasure, and actually sat down to drink tea so casually. What was wrong with their brains? "If you want the treasure, then come at me." I'll play with you all, Jiang Yefeng said in a very flashy manner. He even opened a folding fan with a schwa, appearing very cool and at ease. No wonder a large group of people had been captivated by him all those years ago. Kill! Everyone didn't hesitate. Though the majority of them didn't even know what the treasure was, the word treasure was enough for them to risk their lives. Chen Ruijing and the other disciples all charged out. If there was a problem, it was naturally the disciples who would do the work. Ling Han didn't move. With his current strength, he could instantly subdue these people, and it would be a good opportunity for his disciples to train. Stop! A deep shout rang out, carrying with it a supreme domineering aura. This was like a bolt from the blue, instantly stunning everyone, and they all stopped what they were doing. Even Chen Ruijing and his group looked like they were struggling. They wanted to resist such an order, yet they couldn't help themselves. This was a supreme elite of the heavenly body tier. Otherwise, he definitely wouldn't have such might. A figure appeared, his eyes fixed on the wooden sword in Ling Han's hand, and he said, "Sir, are you willing to part with your treasure?" When these words were spoken, everyone, including the 10 tigers of the Wang clan, gaped in shock. This was a supreme elite of the heavenly body tier, and he was actually being so courteous. Chapter 1400. Compared to Lei Dong's sword light that filled the sky, Ling Han had only shot out a single flash, which appeared weak. But it was precisely this flash of sword light that was like the king of swords, possessing an invincible aura. Before the might of a ruler, the rest were mediocre. So what if there were more of them? They would only be crushed. Pooh! A finger swept past, and the heavens paled. Lei Dong revealed an expression of intense shock. Previously, though Ling Han had easily dispersed his attack, he had only appeared to be slightly more cautious, because that was only a casual attack from him. But this strike was different. He had already used his ultimate move, but it was still easily dispersed by Ling Han. This caused great waves to surge in his heart. How could he possibly be so strong? He took a deep breath, and the totem of the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire suddenly appeared above his head. He had finally extracted the power of the nation. Wang, the totem opened its eyes, and stared at Ling Han. It was as if it had a life of its own. Those eyes exuded a frightening might, as if a mere gaze could suppress everything. Ling Han knew that it was not only the totem, but also the might of the Eternity Sky Emperor himself. All under the heavens belonged to the ruler. As long as the ruler was willing, he could use the totem to investigate any place within the borders of the empire, and even use the totem to attack. Of course, it would not achieve the strongest effect. A heavenly body tier elite wanting to extract power of the nation was naturally a major matter. Thus, the Eternity Sky Emperor was immediately alarmed, and sent his divine sense over, reaching Ling Han through the totem. Ling Han stood proudly. So what if he was in the consummate level of the heavenly body tier? It was indeed difficult for him to defeat him now, but couldn't he just leave if he couldn't defeat him? If he was given a little more time, killing consummate level would be as easy as slaughtering a chicken or a dog. Ling Han looked coldly at the totem. That could be considered a clone of the Eternity Sky Emperor. At the time, the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire had invaded just to obtain the 9 Tribulations sword, causing innumerable massacres. This also caused Ling Han to feel killing intent towards the Eternity Sky Emperor. Lei Dong extracted power of the nation, and his strength instantly soared greatly. This increase in battle prowess by 1 star was 10 times stronger. With a long roar, Lei Dong once again brandished his sword and slashed out. A cold sword light illuminated the sky, causing even the sun to pale in comparison. It was likely that this sword light could be seen within 1/10 of the Eternity Sky Empire. Sword moves the mountains and rivers, he roared, pushing the sword towards Ling Han. The sword light turned into rain, and there was nowhere to hide. Ling Han still used a single finger and slashed out with the lightning sword technique. He was the true king of swords. The sword rain that filled the sky was evaporated, but the sword light that Ling Han shot out was still slicing towards Lei Dong, and its power did not decrease at all. What? Lei Dong turned pale with fright. How could he be so strong? He barely managed to raise his sword to parry, but he was swept by the sword light, and his entire body was pushed back. He was only able to stop after being slashed hundreds of miles away. Wang, at this moment, the totem in the sky suddenly moved, and a huge hand reached out, grabbing at Ling Han. The Eternity Sky Emperor had made his move. Ling Han was disdainful and punched out to meet it. Eternity Sky Emperor, if you personally descended, would you be qualified to match me? You want to take me down with just the power of a totem? You're dreaming. Pang! The punch landed, and the huge hand was instantly blown to pieces. Then, the totem also disintegrated. But the totem in the sky was an illusory image in the first place, and it was fine even if it disintegrated. It very quickly reformed and reappeared. The face of the Eternity Sky Emperor appeared through the totem. He stared menacingly at Ling Han, as if he wanted to clearly see through Ling Han. After a long time, he said, "Pass on our order, execute the Heaven Kill order against Ling Han." Boom, this was not just directed at Ling Han, but was transmitted to the entire Eternity Sky Empire through the totem. Hiss, at this moment, the territory of the Eternity Sky Empire was first filled with a deathly silence, and then immediately after, an uproar broke out. Heaven Kill order in the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire, there were a total of 3 kinds of kill orders, respectively Heaven, Earth, and Mortal, corresponding to different elites. If the Mortal Kill order was issued, then all the Mountain River tier cultivators in the Majestic Empire would have to be mobilized, and if they encountered someone to kill, they would be viewed as a traitor. When the Earth Kill order was issued, even Sun Moon tier elites had to move, and when the Heaven Kill order was issued, even Heavenly Body tier elites had to put down everything to hunt down this person. In the history of the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire, how many years had it been since a Heaven Kill order had been issued? At this moment, Ling Han's name and image spread throughout the entire Eternity Sky Majestic Empire through the totem. All the Heavenly Body tier elites put down what they were doing, and even those who were in seclusion immediately stopped. Only old monsters in the consummate level of the Heavenly Body tier could ignore the Heaven Kill order. Their status was too high, reaching the level where they could ignore imperial power. But how could others dare to disobey? All of a sudden, at least 50 Heavenly Body tier elites moved out, and this was more or less the resources of the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire. Haha. Lei Dong laughed loudly. I really never thought that His Imperial Majesty would actually issue the Heaven Kill order for you. Ling Han, hurry up and scram back to the Chaotic Star's Majestic Empire. However, you have to leave that wooden sword behind for me, or else I will do my best to hold you back and let you be attacked from all sides. No matter how strong you are, only death awaits you. Ling Han shook his head and said, if you stop me, you will definitely die. Moreover, you don't have the right to stop me at all. I can kill you with one move. Lei Dong laughed in extreme anger. He actually said that he could kill him with one move. Where did his confidence come from? Previously, the strength that Ling Han displayed was indeed very strong, but definitely not to the extent of destroying heaven and earth. Fine, I'd like to see how you will kill me with one move. Poof! A human head soared into the sky. Lei Dong's head danced in the air. He still didn't dare to believe it. He saw that Ling Han was holding a divine sword, the blade not stained with blood, and his headless body was falling from the sky. Was it really just one move? In fact, he didn't even notice how Ling Han had attacked. He only felt a terrifying pressure bearing down on him, and his reaction was a beat too slow. He was powerless, and he didn't even manage to dodge when he should have. His defenses were completely useless. Hong, a destructive murderous aura rushed into his mind, and Lei Dong completely lost his consciousness, walking towards death. Ling Han took a step and descended from the sky. At this time, Lei Dong's body and head also landed on the ground. Even in death, an elite of the Heavenly Body tier still possessed a frightening might, causing the ground to shake violently as if there was an earthquake. Everyone was so shocked that their eyeballs were popping out. Though they couldn't fly into the sky, they could clearly see the battle that was taking place in the sky, including the intervention of the Eternity Sky Emperor's totem and the issuing of the Heaven Killing order. Then, Ling Han suddenly showed his might and killed Lei Dong with a single strike. On Joint Peace Planet, Heavenly Body Tier was the supreme king tier. Who knew how many years would it take for a king tier to die, and now, it had happened right before their eyes. Just one strike? What kind of monster was this? The 10 tigers of the Wang clan were all scared out of their wits. They really wanted to faint. Chapter 1401. Ling Han stood proudly and said, "If anyone wants to kill me, feel free to come. I'll be here for half a day." He still had to wait for the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden and Ding Ping, so he couldn't leave temporarily. The faces of the people of the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire twitched. Many of them were incredibly furious. An elite of an enemy nation dared to strut around in their territory, but there were also some people who admired Ling Han. The Eternity Sky Emperor had already issued a heaven-killing order, but Ling Han actually still dared to stay here. This courage was very strong. A day passed, and the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden and Ding Ping returned one after another. One of them had advanced to the Heavenly Body Tier, and the other had advanced to the Sun Moon Tier, adding another powerful helper to Ling Han's side. "Let's go." They moved to leave, and very soon, the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden and Ding Ping knew that their group was being pursued. Naturally, they didn't care. Putting aside the fact that they had 2 Heavenly Body Tier elites on their side, even if each of them threw a handful of flying fire pills, that would be enough to make them suffer. They left calmly, and didn't deliberately hurry because a few of them were only in the Mountain River Tier, so their speed naturally couldn't be too fast. Thus, only a day later, a Heavenly Body Tier elite had already caught up. This was an elite in the low extreme of the Heavenly Body Tier. He was the first to catch up not because his speed was the fastest, but because he just happened to be nearby, so he was the first to catch up. He didn't dare to make a move. Putting aside the fact that the other party had 2 Heavenly Body Tier elites, one of them was even in the medium extreme, stronger than him, so how could he dare to make a move? This was a wise decision. If he knew that even Lei Dong, who was in the peak stage of the medium extreme of the Heavenly Body Tier, had been killed by a single strike from Ling Han, he would definitely be incredibly glad that he had made the right decision. Another half a day later, a new Heavenly Body Tier elite arrived. This one was much stronger, and was in the early stage of the high extreme. Thus, he directly made a move the moment he appeared. His large hand stretched out, turning into a towering demonic palm that suppressed the universe. Unfortunately, Ling Han had already killed elites in the high extreme of the Heavenly Body Tier, so how could he possibly shrink back? He brandished his sword, activating Heaven's Might, and killed this elite in a few moves. He glanced at where the other Heavenly Body Tier elite was, and then descended, but didn't make a move. The Heavenly Body Tier elite's face turned green with fright. That was a being at the high extreme of the Heavenly Body Tier. Although he had only just advanced to this level, he was still a whole minor level above Ling Han. A gap of 4 stars, and added with power of the nation, yet he was still no match for Ling Han. His heart thumped furiously. Thankfully, Ling Han had not made a move against him. Otherwise, he would have definitely died. Gritting his teeth, he turned around and left. Such a monster wasn't someone he could match. In any case, he had already made a trip and done his part. He couldn't chase after him and end up losing his own life. A day later, a new elite appeared. This was an elite at the peak stage of the high extreme of the Heavenly Body Tier. Moreover, he was a 3-star genius. He was engaged in a fierce battle with Ling Han. This time, without using Tide of the Ages, Ling Han could only fight him to a draw. As time dragged on, more Heavenly Body Tier elites arrived and joined the battle. Ling Han was unafraid. His physique was invincible, and no matter how many elites of this level came, he had no fear. When this number reached 7, Ling Han finally unleashed his killing move. Once the Tide of the Ages was unleashed, it was practically impossible for him to block it. Any attack would be instantly aged by him. This was far too frightening. After a few moves, 3 people had already been killed, while the remaining 4 fled in panic. After this news spread, the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire fell silent. No one pursued Ling Han anymore. Without elites in the consummate level of the Heavenly Body Tier, who could do anything to him? However, the status of elites in the consummate level of the heavenly body tier was too aloof. Even the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire couldn't command them. They had to give enough bargaining chips to make them move, and this trip would definitely take a long time. Thus, Ling Han and the others calmly left the borders of the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire and entered into the Chaotic Stars Majestic Empire. Here, they didn't have to worry about being pursued by the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire. Was that going to start a national war? After another few days, they arrived at the imperial capital. At first, Ling Han wanted to immediately see Empress Luanxing, but he found out that the Empress had entered seclusion 2 years ago, and the affairs of the empire were completely handled by the left and right ministers. Not only that, but the 9 kings had also entered seclusion with the Empress. At most, others thought it was a coincidence, but only Ling Han knew that Empress Luanxing must have obtained an opportunity to break through to the pinnacle level of the heavenly body tier. Now that her 9 doppelgangers had returned, she would be in the pinnacle level of the heavenly body tier when she came out of seclusion. The 9 snake tribes' bloodline mystical power was somewhat similar to Gu Daoi's 9 reincarnations, but Gu Daoi's method was clearly more impressive, using 9 reincarnations as a foundation to plant a divine fetus of the 10th reincarnation. Perhaps even some prodigies of the celestial realm couldn't compare. Since that's the case, let's return to the Great Ling Empire. Because it was the first time for many of them, they decided to stay for a few days, and let the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden and the others enjoy the scenery here. Additionally, Ling Han still had to make a trip to the Scarlet Heaven Academy to give the highest Jade Essence Heart to Old Man Su. After strolling around for a day, they entered a restaurant, ordered 2 tables of dishes, and began to eat. Though the level of martial art on Cloud Apex Planet was higher, because of the 2-realm battlefield, demonic beasts and humans stood on the same side, and could not be slaughtered and eaten. But it was different here. They were demonic beasts, so if you wanted to eat them and could eat them, then eat them. There were also delicacies made from the meat of demonic beasts in the restaurant. Everyone was greedy, and ordered a few dishes, greatly satisfying their craving. Knock, knock, knock. Not long after, there was a knock on the door of the private room. Then, the waiter pushed open the door and entered. He showed a troubled expression and said, "Can you all change places?" Ling Han asked. He did not have the habit of taking advantage of his position to bully others, but he also could not allow others to walk all over him without making a sound. The waiter hesitated for a moment and then said, "2 esteemed guests have arrived, but there is no private room left, so I would like to ask you all to make an exception. The manager has said that we can waive the cost of the wine for 1 table." The old ginseng immediately slammed the table and said, "You think we are foreigners and easy to bully, right? Go, call your manager over. Grandpa Ginseng is going to kick his balls." Ling Han did not speak, but did not stop the old ginseng either. Not stopping him was equivalent to tacit agreement, and it was connivance. When the old ginseng saw this, he was naturally filled with courage. In this galaxy, Ling Han might not be invincible, but there was really no need for him to be afraid of anyone. The waiter was very gloomy. He had actually been pointed at and scolded by a ginseng. If it were not for Ling Han and the others, he really wanted to stew this treasured ginseng. But right now, he could only lower his voice and say, "I am really sorry. How about this? My restaurant will pay for all of your drinks. Take it as an apology to you all." He had received instructions that it would naturally be best if they could waive the cost of the wine for 1 table. However, if there was no other choice, they could also waive the cost of all the wine. The most important thing was the private room. They definitely had to get it back. The status of those 2 esteemed guests was too high, and they definitely could not be offended. Chapter 1402. The waiter continued to apologize, but also faintly threatened, emphasizing the noble status of those 2 esteemed guests, and that Ling Han and the others definitely could not afford to offend them. The old ginseng, rabbit, and the others were not people who were willing to be taken advantage of, and added with the fact that Jiang Yufeng and the others were also young and impetuous, they were naturally unwilling to be chased out. They all slammed the table in challenge, wanting to see who these 2 people were, and how noble they were. Still not done tidying up? A voice rang out, carrying incredible arrogance. It sounded familiar. Ling Han's heart suddenly moved. Wasn't this Xiang Qingyun? Back then, he had come by opening the sky, and it was precisely Xiang Qingyun who had come with the will of the left minister, taking the great Ling Empire as a vassal nation of the chaotic star's majestic empire. In the beginning, the relationship between the two was not bad, but as Ling Han gradually rose to prominence, Xiang Qingyun found it hard to keep his balance, and the relationship between the two became indifferent. Especially after the left minister warned Ling Han not to get too close to Li Weiwei, Xiang Qingyun naturally followed closely behind the left minister, completely drawing a clear line between himself and Ling Han, just like a passerby. After that, Ling Han went to the Flying Cloud planet, and did not see Xiang Qingyun again. It had actually not been that many years since they parted. In the immortal realm, over a dozen years' time was like the blink of an eye. Xiang Qingyun naturally could not have changed much. As a favored person by the left minister's side, especially now that the two ministers completely controlled the political power of the empire, Xiang Qingyun would definitely feel very good about himself. Lord Xiang, please wait a moment. I am going to tidy up the room immediately. The waiter was covered in cold sweat. He could offend anyone now, but not Xiang Qingyun. Putting aside the fact that he was only a minor character, even if it was a sun-moon tier force, as long as Xiang Qingyun said a few bad words in the left minister's ear, wouldn't it collapse instantly? Humph, who are these people actually dilly-dallying? How dare they? Another voice rang out and a young man barged in. He had just broken through to the mountain river tier, but the arrogance on his face was extremely heavy, as if the heavens were the boss and he was the second boss. When he saw that there were not only people in the private room, but also a rabbit and a ginseng sitting high up like lords, his face involuntarily twitched. Although demonic beasts were very common, to think that they would be so carefree even in the human race's imperial capital was a little embarrassing. Moreover, the three women here were all very beautiful. One was tender and naive, one was mature and well-developed, and the last one was even more alluring. She was as beautiful as a fairy and was incomparably beautiful. She was simply like the legendary empress, causing people to lose their souls at first sight. However, the heavenly phoenix divine maiden wasn't Empress Luanxing, after all. Thus, the young man quickly came to his senses and proudly asked, "Who are you people?" As they spoke, Xiang Qingyun also walked into the private room. However, due to the angle, he did not manage to see Ling Han. Furthermore, because Ling Han's cultivation was too high and his aura was restrained, he was completely unable to sense how powerful Ling Han was. Of course, no matter how hard he thought, he could not possibly imagine that this was Ling Han, who had even broken through to the heavenly body tier, and could even easily send the Lord Left Minister flying. His expression was one of arrogance. Although his official position had not changed at all, the Left Minister now controlled half of the country. His value had naturally risen many times over. He appeared even more arrogant and conceited. He could clearly sense that there were a few people here whose auras were unfathomable, but he did not take it to heart. There were only that few heavenly body tier elites in the chaotic star's majestic empire, so these few people definitely could not be such elites. At most, they were in the sun-moon tier. Then what was there for him to be afraid of in the sun-moon tier? Not only was he not afraid, this kind of existence even had to flatter him in return. For example, the young man who had invited him to drink today was the prodigy of the Lu clan, a sun-moon tier force, Lu Yujing. This time, he had specially acted as a matchmaker, intending to betroth the precious daughter of the Lu clan to him. It should be known that this precious daughter of the Lu clan had been in the limelight in recent years, and had become one of the four great beauties of the imperial capital, replacing Li Weiwei and the others, who asked them to have broken through to the mountain river tier. The new generation replaced the old? History had always been like this. At first, Xiang Qingyun had some thoughts about Li Weiwei, but he was self-aware. In the eyes of the left minister, he was only a useful and obedient dog. How could he be worthy of taking Li Weiwei as his wife? Thus, he had long since given up, and he had also seen that precious daughter of the Lu clan. She was indeed beautiful and enchanting, and definitely did not lose to Li Weiwei. Furthermore, the Lu clan also had an ancestor in the consummate level of the Sun Moon tier, and could be considered a first-rate clan. Being able to become the son-in-law of the Lu clan was very beneficial to Xiang Qingyun, and the Lu clan could also gain the favor of the left minister through him. Thus, the two sides naturally hit it off well. Xiang Qingyun was now as proud as the heavens. As long as it was not the right minister or the 7 generals, he was not afraid of anyone. Even if an ancestor in the consummate level of the Sun Moon tier came, he would still dare to point at the other's nose and scold him. Thus, he allowed Lu Yujing to fly into a rage. Moreover, he was also displeased. The favored person by the left minister's side had come to drink, and he actually had to dawdle for half a day to get a private room. Where was his face? The old ginseng slammed a palm on the table and exclaimed, "Fuck you!" Lu Yujing was furious. Why was this treasured ginseng so ruffian? If he did not stew and eat it, it would not be enough to vent his anger. All of you can scram, but this ginseng has to stay. We want to stew the ginseng and drink it, he said darkly. Furthermore, he was indeed tempted. A treasured ginseng that was psychic could cultivate on its own, and its medicinal effects were far stronger than other godly medicines of the same level. It could even prolong one's lifespan. For cultivators, there was nothing more important than lifespan. A longer lifespan meant a higher possibility of climbing to the peak. You want to eat your grandpa ginseng? You guys are still 108,000 years too early. Eating grandpa ginseng's foot-washing water is more like it. The old ginseng leaped onto Ding Ping's shoulder and said, "Brat Ding, serve grandpa ginseng." He knew that among Ling Han's disciples, Ding Ping was currently the strongest, so it was only natural that he latched onto this thigh. Ding Ping's personality was steady. He was not as bloodthirsty and impulsive as Jiu Yao, not as flashy as Jiang Yefeng, and not as inflexible as Qin Ruijing. There was no need to mention Yun Yong Wang and Kong Xiuyuan. The two of them mainly cultivated alchemy, and martial art was their secondary occupation. He said solemnly, "We still want to eat, so please go out. When we are done eating, we will naturally leave." These words were spoken in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. Furthermore, they were reasonable. We came first. When doing business, it's naturally first come, first served. Wow, you guys are quite bold. Lu Yojing's expression turned cold, but he did not make a move. He could also tell that Ding Ping and the others were very powerful. At least, their cultivation level was much higher than his, so he directly used his backer and said, "Have you guys not heard of Brother Xiang's identity? He is the most popular person by the Lord Left Minister's side." As he said this, he was very proud of himself. Even Xiang Qingyun couldn't help but straighten his back slightly. Meanwhile, his eyes stopped on the heavenly phoenix divine maiden's pretty face, and a strong look of amazement flashed through his eyes. In the imperial capital, the only one who was more beautiful than this woman was the empress. Previously, Shui Yinyu could also be a match for her, but it was a pity that after the majestic heaven sect had been mysteriously destroyed, this woman's whereabouts had been lost. It was speculated that she had died long ago. His inflated confidence also caused him to become much bolder, and evil thoughts surged in his mind. Chapter 1404. "Master, leave it to me," Ding Ping said. "No, leave it to me," Zhu Yao argued. After he lost to Ding Ping, he wanted to suppress Ding Ping, so he fought with Ding Ping for everything. Ling Han didn't pay any attention to him, and only struck out with his palm. Pa! The young man from the Lu clan was instantly pressed to the ground, his body spread out in the shape of the Chinese character. The blue stone tiles on the ground were like tofu, and a human-shaped hole immediately appeared. "How dare you!" Lu Qingfeng's eyes couldn't help but turn cold. He actually dared to act violently in front of him. "Ling Han, this is the imperial capital," Xiang Qingyun said coldly. Being slapped to the ground in front of everyone had given rise to a cold, killing intent in him. He definitely would not be able to vent his anger just by beating up Ling Han. He wants to kill Ling Han. The country had its laws, and it was forbidden to kill people in the imperial capital. At least, on the surface, even the left and right ministers and the 7 great generals had to abide by this law. Only the 9 kings were an exception. However, the 9 kings were too low-key and did not even leave their houses. He wanted to infuriate Ling Han so that Ling Han could kill a few people from the Lu clan. With that, he could summon the imperial army to kill Ling Han. So what? Ling Han asked calmly. To say nothing of his relationship with Empress Luan Xing, just based on his present strength alone, he had even slaughtered his way through the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire, allowing him to come and go as he pleased. He really didn't care about any rules at all. Unfortunately, the news from the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire had yet to arrive. Otherwise, even if Xiang Qingyun had 100 guts, he would not dare to provoke Ling Han. He was a malefic star, and he had always been one. It was just that his cultivation was not high in the past, so he only dared to provoke Great General Zhao's son. Now, he was getting bolder and bolder. He, could it be that you still dare to kill me? Xiang Qingyun said coldly. This was naturally an intense battle. Of course, he himself was hiding beside Lu Qingfeng. Even if the sky collapsed, there would still be a tall person to hold it up. The daughter of the Lu clan could not help but reveal a look of disdain. Your mouth is fierce, but you don't have the slightest bit of guts. Are you a man? Before this, she had only seen Xiang Qingyun's glorious side. This Xiang Qingyun was incomparably radiant, and everyone was fawning over him. However, he was so pathetic in the face of a slight adversity, which greatly disappointed her, and her favorable impression of him plummeted. Ling Han did not speak. Did he still need to bicker with a mountain river tier cultivator? He pressed down with his palm. Xiang Qingyun was instantly unable to withstand the great force. His legs gave way and he knelt down. Pang! The force was so great that the whole street shook lightly, and his bones were instantly broken and shattered. Xiang Qingyun let out a tragic cry. This pain really penetrated deep into his bones. Lu Qingfeng, on the other hand, had a cold expression on his face. This person was too bold. He even dared to make a move when he was right beside him. You're courting death. He raised his fist and threw a punch at the restaurant. Let me do it, Ding Ping said. I'll do it. 9 Demon refused. The two of them moved at the same time. Peng, they attacked together, but Ding Ping had only just advanced into the Sun-Moon tier, and 9 Demon was only at the peak stage of the pinnacle level of the Mountain River tier. Neither of them could possibly stand against the consummate level of the Sun-Moon tier. Instantly, they were both sent flying, and spat out an arrow of blood in midair. Thankfully, they had both cultivated the 9 Dragons Tyrant body art. Though their physiques were not as freakish as Ling Han's, they were still much stronger than ordinary people. Otherwise, with such a wide gap in cultivation level, they would definitely be shattered into pieces by a single move. Ignorant. Lu Qingfeng smirked coldly. In the immortal level, every minor level was a world of difference, what more when he was in the consummate level. The strongest of these two was only in the low extreme, and there was a whole 3 minor levels between them. However, he was also slightly shocked. That young man in the low extreme was too young, not even 500 years old. In the history of the Chaotic Star's Majestic Empire, there were only a dozen or so people who had advanced into the Sun-Moon tier before 500 years old. The most recent one had to be Zhao Luan, but he, too, had only advanced into the Sun-Moon tier when he was 700 or 800 years old. Ling Han stretched out a hand and made a grabbing motion, and Ding Ping and Jiu Yao were dragged back by him. He knew in his heart that if his 2 disciples worked together, there would at least not be any danger to their lives. Otherwise, he would definitely move to stop them. You, too, take a punch from me, Ling Han said calmly and shot out a punch. This punch seemed to be extremely slow, but after it was shot out, it appeared in front of Lu Qingfeng, giving him a great fright. He hurriedly punched out to meet it. The 2 fists collided, and Lu Qingfeng did not move in the slightest. He proudly said, "Just a sizzle." These words had not even left his mouth when his expression suddenly changed drastically. He staggered back 3 steps, and only then did he stop. He was just about to speak, yet staggered back another 3 steps. He stopped, and when he wanted to speak again, he staggered back again. Just like that, Lu Chengfeng continued to stagger and retreat. He repeatedly wanted to speak, yet he could not do as he wished every time. This was very funny at first, but after a dozen times, no one thought it was funny anymore. Instead, they all wore expressions of extreme shock. It was only a punch, so how could the power of the punch remain for such a long time? Furthermore, Lu Chengfeng was in the consummate level of the Sun-Moon tier. Xiang Qingyun managed to raise his head. He was filled with shock. What level had Ling Han actually reached? In the past, this guy had been a freak in cultivation. His cultivation level had caught up from behind, and even surpassed him. Now, not only had he advanced into the Sun-Moon tier, he had even reached the consummate level or even the peak stage. Otherwise, how could he possibly force Lu Chengfeng to continuously retreat with a single punch? Of course, no matter how much Xiang Qingyun dared to imagine, he could not possibly think that Ling Han was in the heavenly body tier. This was too illogical, because he had seen with his own eyes that Ling Han had only been in the shattering void tier at the time. He could have smacked him to death with a single hand. Lu Chengfeng kept retreating like this, and the other members of the Lu clan naturally could not sit back and watch. They all followed him, and two of them helped Xiang Qingyun up, holding him by one arm as they fled in a sorry state. Meanwhile, the Pearl of the Lu clan revealed a strange light in her eyes. She, too, had heard of the legend of Ling Han, but had never thought that the legend would appear in front of her in the flesh. Furthermore, he was even stronger than the legend. Lu Chengfeng kept retreating and could not stop at all. Who knew how many walls he had smashed and how many houses he had destroyed? Thankfully, the Lu clan was a large clan and could still afford this bit of money. However, the eldest son of the Lu clan was possessed. Instead of crashing into a path, he chose to crash into a wall. Crashing into a wall did not count, but he was crashing into a wall upside down. This news rapidly spread throughout the imperial capital. After retreating for more than 10 miles, Lu Chengfeng finally sat down on the ground. The corners of his mouth twitched continuously, and he felt that his whole body was covered with cold sweat. Even his hair was standing on end. Previously, he really had no control over himself. That kind of feeling was too terrifying. Quick, go and invite the ancestor," he said, trembling. Ling Han was too strong, and only the peak stage of the consummate level of the Sun-Moon tier could suppress him. No, perhaps they could only match him and not be able to suppress him. They hurriedly rushed back to the Lu clan. After learning of Lu Chengfeng's encounter, the ancestor of the Lu clan sank into slight hesitation. To battle with an elite at the peak stage of the consummate level of the Sun-Moon tier, was this worth it? However, Xiang Qingyun immediately spoke up, exerting pressure on him, so the ancestor of the Lu clan could only grit his teeth. In order to get on the left minister's good side, he had to curry favor with Xiang Qingyun. He went out personally and led more than half of the clansmen of the Lu clan to rush to the restaurant. And with the return of the Lu clan, especially with Lu Chengfeng tearing down a wall of 10 miles, it naturally alarmed a great many people, and they all rushed over to watch the commotion. Cell phones read more refreshingly. Chapter 1405. Who was this? So audacious that he had even provoked the ancestor of the Lu clan. Ling Han. What? Ling Han has returned. Ling Han is still alive. When they learned that the main culprit was Ling Han, everyone's expression became strange. Ling Han's ability to stir up trouble was not something that had happened in a day or two. He had formed enmity with Sha Yuan and Zhao Lun, and even dared to offend two great generals of the heavenly body tier. Now, it seemed completely normal that he had angered the ancestor of the Lu clan. However, this commotion was definitely going to happen. The news spread like wildfire, and more people moved out, hurrying over here. When this news reached the great General Sha's residence, there was suddenly a surge of endless killing intent, causing the surroundings to become extraordinarily cold. Sha Yuan had died at the hands of Ling Han, but before the great General Sha could take revenge, the majestic heaven sect was finished, and Ling Han had also disappeared. All these years, the great General Sha had always thought that Ling Han had died, but now he actually found out that Ling Han had returned alive, so his killing intent was naturally blazing. Though Sha Yuan was not the most outstanding son of the great General Sha, he was not someone that could be easily killed. Xiao, the great General Sha, flew out. A heavenly body tier elite was enraged, and even the great formation that protected the imperial capital trembled violently. The left and right ministers, as well as the remaining 6 great generals, were all alarmed. Of course, because the transmission of news was slightly slower, long before the great General Sha had moved out, the ancestor of the Lu clan had already led his men to the restaurant. Ling Han, quickly come out and accept your death, the juniors of the Lu clan shouted. At this time, Ling Han had already finished eating. He sat high up on the table, and just happened to be able to see him clearly through one of the human-shaped holes. With a casual wave of his hand, "Pa," those juniors all received a slap, and flew out together, fainting. This was naturally Ling Han showing mercy. Otherwise, if a heavenly body tier attacked, putting aside the fact that mountain river tiers could not block it, even sun moon tiers would be insta-killed. The ancestor of the Lu clan was furious and said, "Ling Han, you are too audacious, actually daring to humiliate a junior of the Lu clan in front of me. Old man, if you talk any more, I'll beat you up too." Ling Han said faintly. Since things had come to this point, he might as well let it go. He might as well make a scene to his heart's content. The Grand Elder of the Lu clan couldn't help but laugh in extreme fury. Not only had he lived for a long time, he was also in existence at the peak stage of the consummate level of the Sun-Moon tier. How many people in the whole of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire could defeat him? 20 at the most. It couldn't be helped. The Chaotic Star's majestic empire had only been established for a short period of time, and its foundation was lacking. How could it compare to the Eternity Sky Majestic Empire and Jade Drop Majestic Empire? Junior, come down. This old man will properly teach you what it means to respect your elders. Path Lu family ancestor hadn't even finished speaking when his face was already slapped heavily. "What do you want to teach me?" asked Ling Han indifferently. He didn't even get close to the Lu family's patriarch. He just sat on the roof of the restaurant, and then another slap came. Pow, pow, pow. The Lu family patriarch was unable to resist at all, and was slapped repeatedly. His face immediately became red and swollen. His teeth flew out one by one, and his face was covered in blood. But the pain on his body was nothing at all. The Lu family ancestor was already dumbfounded from shock. Being able to toy with him in the palm of his hand, how could he possibly be in the Sun-Moon tier? His heart trembled, and a realization that he couldn't believe welled up in him. Though he was extremely unwilling to face it, the truth was slapping him in the face. Heavenly body tier. Ling Han was actually in the heavenly body tier. Heavens, for the sake of currying favor with the dog of a great elite of the heavenly body tier, he actually offended another heavenly body tier. How stupid was that? But who would have thought that only a few years had passed, and the country bumpkin who had come by opening the sky at that time had actually become a great elite of the heavenly body tier. No one could possibly have thought that, and they didn't dare to think at all. Not only was the Lu family ancestor exploding with shock, but everyone else also gaped, yet couldn't make a single sound. Heavenly body tier, this was definitely the heavenly body tier. He had offended a great elite of the heavenly body tier, and the left minister would definitely be displeased with him. What kind of look was this? Could it be done? Great elite of the heavenly body tier. The beautiful eyes of the pearl of the Lu family were shining. This was the husband she was pursuing. The whole place was dead silent, and only the sound of the Lu family ancestor being continuously slapped rang out, appearing extremely ear-piercing. Mainly, the Sun-Moon tier was powerful, and especially with the protection of origin power, their skin was naturally thicker than city walls, so the slaps were extremely painful. The best of the younger generation arrived one after another. There was Li Weiwei Jiyun, as well as Luo Ba, Lin Yu, Ma Xing, and Cheng Haofei. Zhao Luan had also arrived. His expression was dark, and his eyes were filled with shock and fear. Ling Han had actually advanced into the heavenly body tier. Thinking back, he had humiliated Ling Han time and time again, and had even wanted to kill the latter. All this was because he had a heavenly body tier father behind him, allowing him to have no scruples. But now, Ling Han had advanced into the heavenly body tier, and now it was Ling Han's turn to have no scruples. Even if he killed him, so what? A great elite of the heavenly body tier could be humiliated as a joke. Ling Han, you've returned. Li Weiwei called out loudly. You damn brat, I thought you were dead. Ling Han withdrew his hand, smiled, and said, long time no see. Back then, he had cooperated with Li Weiwei and Ji Yun to earn money, and it could be said to be relatively joyous. The heavenly phoenix divine maiden immediately humphed and said, which close female friend of yours is this? Why have I not heard you mention her before? Chen Ruijing and the others snickered secretly. They could be said to be very familiar with the temper of this master's wife. Her temper was as fiery as fire, and she could not tolerate the slightest bit of dirt in her eyes. Pumph. A heavy pressure suddenly assaulted them, causing everyone to feel a strong palpitation. It was as if a single thought would cause this place to flow like a river of blood, and no one could survive at all. A figure appeared, his whole body enveloped by the aura of primal chaos, but it was not very dense, and his appearance could still be seen. He was dressed in martial attire, had a square face, and had a dignified appearance, exuding a mighty aura that was not angry. Sha Jing, Great General Sha Xiu, another incredibly powerful existence appeared. Zhao Jianbai, Great General Zhao. Immediately afterward, a third elite appeared. He was dressed in scholarly attire, appearing very thin. The left minister, Li Cheng. All at once, 3 great elites of the heavenly body tier had come. This was the strongest force on Joint Peace Planet. Although these 3 people had not reached the consummate level yet, having advanced into this level, they were qualified to have a small world. The left minister looked at Ling Han, and his initially calm and composed expression as if everything was within his control instantly disappeared completely. Ling Han, it was actually Ling Han. This guy had actually advanced into the heavenly body tier, and so quickly. He knew that Ling Han's talent in martial art was astonishing, but he thought that even if Ling Han's luck was nature-defying, he would still need 1 or 2 million years to be able to step into this cultivation level. And there were really too many things that could happen in 1 or 2 million years, and Ling Han just so happened to be an extremely troublemaker. Thus, the left minister was not willing to let his beloved daughter be too close to Ling Han. But he had never thought that. The left minister now only felt a burning sensation on his face, as if he had been slapped heavily by someone. What kind of eyesight was this? Chapter 1406. Ling Han, you killed my son, and today, I'll make you pay with your life, Sha Jing said coldly. He could not see through Ling Han's cultivation level, but was unafraid, thinking that their cultivation levels were equal. However, how many years had Ling Han cultivated? Could he compare to him? They were both in the low extreme of the heavenly body tier, and he was confident that he could easily suppress Ling Han. He naturally had to avenge his son's death, and as a great general, he naturally had special privileges. Moreover, avenging his son's death could be said to be perfectly justifiable. He dared to kill someone in public in the imperial capital. Your son, Sha Yuan, tried to kill me time and time again. I killed him, and I have no qualms about it, Ling Han said calmly. If you are not convinced, I'll take you on. Then die. Sha Jing's origin power surged, and the aura of the heavenly body tier spread, incredibly frightening. This was a suppression on the level of life, causing everyone nearby to collapse onto the ground, with only a few exceptions. For example, Zhao Luan naturally had the protection of Great General Zhao, and Li Weiwei had the protection of the left minister. On Ling Han's side, he had the protection of him and the heavenly phoenix divine maiden, so there was naturally no problem. Ling Han waved his hand, his eyes sweeping over the left minister, Sha Jing and Zhao Jianbai, and then said, when I went to the majestic heaven sect, I was once pursued, and my starship was destroyed. It should be one of you, right? There were only a few heavenly body tiers that he had interacted with at that time, and Empress Luan Xing and Chu Qiuxue had no motive to do so. The remaining three were suspicious, especially Sha Jing and Zhao Jianbai. "Humph, you were worthy of me making a move then," Sha Jing immediately said in disdain. Zhao Jianbai and the left minister were also disdainful to answer. They had their own status and naturally would not answer whatever you asked. Ling Han showed a doubtful expression. At that time, he remembered the aura of that ambusher, but it was different from these three people. This was also the reason why he would ask. Perhaps that ambusher had deliberately changed his aura, and with the ability of the heavenly body tier, he could completely deceive him at that time. But the problem was, at that time, the sneak attacker should have been completely confident in killing him. Why bother to do so? No one can save you even if you stall for time, Sha Jing said coldly. He wanted to avenge his son. Wait! The left minister stretched out a hand to stop him, and said, "Brother Sha, Ling Han is a member of our chaotic star's majestic empire. Now that he has advanced into the heavenly body tier, it is a great fortune for our empire. How can we fight among ourselves? You killed my son, and you still want to get along with me?" Sha Jing sneered. This was a huge joke. The left minister had already decided to mend his relationship with Ling Han. He had advanced into the heavenly body tier at such a young age, so his future would definitely be limitless. He had made a mistake once, and he didn't want to make a second time. "Brother Sha, I am the left minister of the empire." Before Her Imperial Majesty went into seclusion, she entrusted all the important affairs of the empire to me and Brother Du. The left minister brought out Empress Luanxing. This was a great weapon that could suppress everything. True enough, a sliver of wariness appeared on Sha Jing's face. Empress Luanxing's rule was extremely strict. In the past, there had been a general who had been personally killed by her. If he deliberately disobeyed the orders of the empress, then so what if he was a great elite of the heavenly body tier and a great general of the empire? "Brotherly, isn't Brother Sha's son a citizen of our empire?" Zhao Jianbai interrupted. "This person is only a subordinate of our empire, yet dared to kill the son of a general of our empire. If we do not punish him strictly, what kind of logic would that be?" "That's right." Sha Jing immediately became resolute. Not only because of Zhao Jianbai's words, but also because the latter had clearly stated his position, standing with him. "Brotherly, you should join forces with us to suppress this murderer together," Zhao Jianbai said. Even if Ling Han had only just broken through to the heavenly body tier, they were all in the low extreme. If Ling Han decided to fight with his life on the line, it would be difficult to deal with them. With three great elites of the heavenly body tier joining forces, it would naturally be much safer. The left minister couldn't help but feel conflicted. He wanted to protect Ling Han, but if it meant that he would become enemies with the two great generals, he hesitated. Was it worth it? Though he held great power now, he was still divided with the right minister, and it was also because the 7 great generals had not expressed their stance that the forces of the 2 ministers were equal. But if Zhao Jianbai and Sha Jing both sided with the right minister, he would definitely be suppressed by the right minister. It was not worth offending 2 heavenly body tier elites for the sake of 1 heavenly body tier. He thought for a moment, waved his sleeve and said, "Since you have a personal grudge, then settle it among yourselves. I will not interfere." "Father!" Li Weiwei instantly jumped up. He said that he would not interfere, but in truth, wasn't that conniving? Yet the left minister's expression was stern, and he gave his daughter a stern look. This daughter was really too troublesome and should find a husband for her. As a wife, she should be able to restrain herself more. Though Zhao Jianbai and Sha Jing were not too satisfied, since the left minister had clearly stated that he would not interfere, that was not bad either. At least, there would be 1 less powerful obstacle. The 2 of them were both veteran great elites of the heavenly body tier, and Ling Han had just broken through. How could it be that the 2 of them could not easily deal with him if they joined forces? "Ling Han, why are you not kneeling and waiting for your punishment? As a subject, you are deliberately resisting the law. Do you want the great Ling Empire to die with you?" Zhao Jianbai used the name of righteousness to exert pressure on Ling Han. "I'll do it." The heavenly phoenix divine maiden stood up. She had just advanced into the heavenly body tier, and was just thinking of testing her own strength. All right. Ling Han nodded. With him overseeing the situation, there was no harm. The heavenly phoenix divine maiden delivered a palm strike, and the whole wall was sent flying. She took a step out, her figure standing in the air. What? Seeing this scene, everyone was so shocked that their scalps went numb. Not using any external objects and standing in the air, this was the heavenly body tier. Hiss, there was actually another great elite of the heavenly body tier beside Ling Han. Now that it was 2 against 2, the situation was really difficult to judge. Xiang Qingyun was both jealous and fearful. On what basis? On what basis could a country bumpkin from a small world surpass him in cultivation level? On what basis could he obtain the hearts of so many exquisite beauties? And now, it was even more exaggerated, actually having a female companion of the heavenly body tier. But he actually said that he wanted this female elite to stay and drink with him. Wasn't that courting death? Sha Jing and Zhao Jianbai both looked solemn. The heavenly phoenix divine maiden's aura was extremely unstable. One reason was that she had just advanced into the heavenly body tier, but as long as one had stepped into this cultivation level, they definitely could not be underestimated. After all, they were only in the peak stage of the low extreme. Miss, this matter has nothing to do with you, so why must you interfere? Sha Jing decided to try and see if he could sow discord between them first. The heavenly phoenix divine maiden looked down from high above, and there were 2 phoenix wings spread out behind her. Each wing was 1,000 miles long, and with a light flap, there were rosy clouds dancing. She opened her mouth and said, "Ling Han is my husband." When these words were spoken, they directly blocked the rest of Sha Jing's words. He wanted to take revenge for his son, so how could it be that he wouldn't let her stand up for her husband? This made him jealous because though he was also a great elite of the heavenly body tier, it was obviously impossible for him to marry a woman of the heavenly body tier as his wife. How could he not be jealous? Since that is the case, then we can only meet on the battlefield. He drew out a saber. That was a precious tool that had accompanied him on the battlefield for innumerable years, and he had long since refined it to the point that it was connected to his mind. Chapter 1408. The left minister was very embarrassed. Zhao Luan's request was actually very reasonable. As the left minister, the highest commander of the empire, he could not ignore the death of an imperial great general. But the problem was that Ling Han was too strong and could kill Zhao Jianbai with a single strike, so killing him would be an easy and pleasant task. The left minister liked power, but if he had to give up his life for power, that would be laughable. He cursed internally. The incident had happened so long ago, so why hadn't the right minister and the other 5 great generals appeared? It wasn't that they hadn't arrived in time, but rather that they had arrived long ago. Previously, they had been watching the battle in secret, and now no one dared to come out. I pretended not to be there, and didn't know anything. In the future, no one can say anything about me. But fuck, I've been screwed over by you guys. The left minister grimaced. This was also because the foundation of the chaotic star's majestic empire was too weak. Aside from the Empress and the 9 kings, there was actually no one who had reached the medium extreme of the heavenly body tier. Now that the Empress and the 9 kings were in seclusion, no one could do anything to Ling Han. This was the weakness of relying on a single elite to support an entire force. Once this elite was no longer present, for example, if he had gone out to travel or cultivated in seclusion, then this force would become very weak. Lord Left Minister, please avenge my father. Zhao Luan knelt, tears streaming down his face. He was definitely sad that his father had died, but only he himself knew how much his tears were real and how much was exaggerated. There were many acting, but now none of them could make a sound. This was a battle on the level of the heavenly body tier, and they didn't even have the right to interrupt. Jing Wuxue and the others were even more rueful. In the past, Ling Han had still been their little junior brother, but now? They were still in the consummate level of the mountain river tier, and there was almost no change, but Ling Han was shockingly in the heavenly body tier. They were both born of the same parents, so how could the gap be so huge? Well, this The left minister dragged out his words. It was impossible for him to start a war with Ling Han, but the death of a great general was also an earth-shattering event, so it was impossible for him to brush it off with a careless excuse. Ling Han. With a clear shout, a valiant and heroic-looking woman appeared. She was dressed in battle armor and had a scarlet cloak draped over her shoulders. The cloak fluttered in the wind and was at least 3 meters long, giving off a heroic aura. Chu Qiushue, commander of the Imperial Guards, when the minister of the left saw this, he instantly felt reassured. In terms of martial prowess, Chu Qiushue actually surpassed him. This was because she bore the heavy responsibility of guarding the imperial palace. Not only could she draw more power of the nation, but she could also use a limited amount of the imperial capital's great array. What minister of the right? The 5 great generals, none of them are as reliable as a woman. Lord Chu. Ling Han cupped his hands in greeting. He was still rather respectful towards Chu Qiushue. Chu Qiushue's expression was cold, and she said, "You are already in the heavenly body tier now, and are on equal footing with me. You don't dare to be addressed as Lord. Let me ask you, are you here to strut around in this dynasty?" Ling Han shook his head and said, "I have no intention of strutting around. At first, I wanted to request an audience with Her Imperial Majesty, but since the Empress is in seclusion, I will stay here for a while. I had not thought that so many things would happen." Chu Qiushue's expression eased slightly, and she said, "You have killed a great general of this dynasty. This matter concerns too much, and it cannot be settled just like that. When Her Imperial Majesty comes out of seclusion, there will definitely be a decision." "All right." Ling Han nodded. Who was he to the Empress? Previously, for the sake of the 9 kings, she had not hesitated to kill a great general, and now, for the sake of her lover, so what if she killed another one? Moreover, this was also Ling Han who had killed him, and speaking of which, it was Zhao Jianbai who had provoked him, and had come to him on his own accord. Zhao Luan's eyes were sinister. He knew that it was impossible to kill him with a borrowed knife. The minister of the left minister did not dare to make a move at all, and Chu Qiushue was unwilling to make a move. He retreated quietly. Previously, he had formed a great enmity with Ling Han, and now Ling Han was definitely going to settle the score. If he did not run, then was he going to wait for death? "Why are you running?" However, he had just taken a step when he heard Ling Han's calm voice ring out by his ear. Then he was grabbed by an invisible hand and lifted up. "Ling Han." Chu Qiushue glared at him in anger. "You had already killed a great general of the empire, and you still wanted to commit murder?" As the great commander of the Imperial Guards, she could not turn a blind eye to this. A heavy sound rang out, and the heavenly phoenix divine maiden was struck down, while Sha Jing stood proudly in midair. His cultivation level was much higher, after all, and he also had the boost from power of the nation. Thus, he had gained the upper hand in this clash. Ling. Sha Jing was just about to begin rebuking, but shockingly discovered that Zhao Jianbai's corpse had already been sliced in 2. Fuck. He naturally would not think that this had been done by the left minister or Chu Qiushue. Putting aside the question of whether they had the courage to do so, they did not have the strength to do so either. There was only one person, Ling Han. This young man was actually this strong. Sha Jing could not see through Ling Han's cultivation level, but he had always thought that Ling Han had deliberately concealed it. They were both in the low extreme, so this was naturally very easy to accomplish. But now it turned out that he had guessed wrong. He could not see through it, but that was because Ling Han's cultivation level was still above his. Thus, the latter had easily killed Zhao Jianbai. His speed was so fast, and the commotion was so small that even he had not noticed it. That was because the heavenly phoenix divine maiden had also given him a very great pressure, so how could he dare to be distracted? He trembled and shrank back. A bloody battle on the battlefield was one thing, but he had slaughtered millions of people. That was because he knew that his strength had already reached the absolute peak, and there was definitely no one who could kill him, and not because he was unafraid of death, and was a natural maniac of killing. In front of the pressure of death, he broke out in a cold sweat, and his back was instantly drenched. Killing his son? Heir, He was not Zhao Jianbai. He had quite a few sons, and Sha Yuan was only one of them. Furthermore, he was not even the most outstanding. If he died, then so be it. Are you all right? Ling Han walked towards the heavenly phoenix divine maiden. The heavenly phoenix divine maiden sprang up. There were traces of blood on her body, and there was also blood on the side of her mouth, but her essence, spirit had not been damaged. She was slightly aggrieved, and also slightly stubborn, and said, I lost. Ling Han shook his head and said, How did you lose? You must have remembered wrongly. He stretched out another hand towards Sha Jing. This hand covered the sky, and pressed down on Sha Jing. So what if you are in the heavenly body tier? I am just that domineering. Chu Qiushue's fingers trembled slightly, and she felt an urge to move, but there was no killing intent in this palm from Ling Han, so she forcibly suppressed it. Sha Jing was alone, so how could he block the press of the large hand? He was directly pressed to the ground. Innumerable bursts of origin power surged, and Sha Jing was instantly blasted until he was unrecognizable, a horrible sight to behold. Ling Han withdrew his hand, and smilingly said, Wife, isn't his injuries more severe than yours? Naturally, you have one. In broad daylight, you are lying with your eyes wide open. Yet, Ling Han did not give up and asked Sha Jing, Brother Sha, who was the one who beat you? His eyes glared, and there was a fierce glint in them. At this moment, his killing intent soared, and it looked like he would chop someone down at the slightest disagreement. Sha Jing felt extremely aggrieved, and his hands clenched tightly into fists. Using the smallest voice he could muster, he said, I was beaten by her. Chapter 1409. Wife, he himself has identified you as the murderer. Ling Han then turned to the heavenly phoenix divine maiden, his killing intent completely dissipating. This was calling a deer a horse, forcing a woman into prostitution, and distorting the truth. Was there still justice in this world? Everyone's expressions were strange. When had great elites of the heavenly body tier fallen to such a level, not even daring to identify the person who had injured them? Ling Han was really too domineering. However, there were even more girls whose eyes were shining with curiosity. This was an exceptional man. He was so warm that they wanted to marry him. The heavenly phoenix divine maiden couldn't help but laugh. She was also slightly embarrassed and gave a light pat on Ling Han's back, yet she was filled with happiness. To others, Ling Han would distort the truth and be domineering and unreasonable, but to her, it was the most gentle and most caring action. Brother Sha, quickly go and recuperate. Ling Han casually shook his hand, and Sha Jing was instantly thrown out by him. Though he had killed Sha Yuan, he did not bear a grudge against Sha Jing. As long as the latter was not overbearing, he was not the type to implicate others either. Added with the fact that Chu Qiushue had come, he had to give him some face no matter what. Sha Jing did not dare make a sound, and turned to flee. At this moment, he was not some great general. He lowered his head, and even his figure was a few inches shorter. Zhaolun was about to wet his pants in fear. Even great General Sha had been beaten like a dog, yet he did not dare to make a sound. Furthermore, Great Commander Chu did not make a sound, tacitly approving of Ling Han's actions. He did not want to die. He wanted revenge. He could not die here. Zhaolun, I have never minded competition, but you have repeatedly expressed killing intent towards me, sending people to kill me, and personally attacking me because your cultivation level was higher than mine at the time, Ling Han said calmly. Now that my cultivation level is higher than yours, I will take advantage of my power to bully you once. If you can block 3 moves from me, I will spare your life. 3 moves, your sister? Zhao Luan cursed in his heart. Even his old man couldn't block a single sword strike from Ling Han, and he actually wanted him to block 3 moves? How was this giving him a way out? That's right, I didn't plan to let you live at all, Ling Han said. His hand tightened, and Zhaolun was crushed into pieces. The flesh and blood of a Sun-Moon tier elite contained immense power, yet under the control of Ling Han's large hand, there was not the slightest ripple released. Zhao Luan's body and soul were both destroyed. Xiang Qingyun's face went from white to green, then from green to black, like a chameleon. Now, everyone was being punished by Ling Han, so how could he be spared? Most importantly, he was the one who had started all of this. If he hadn't asked for that damn booth, who would have thought that the cause of the death of an elite of the heavenly body tier and the beating up of an elite of the mountain river tier was actually because two minor characters of the mountain river tier wanted to forcibly fight over a private room? No one would believe such a thing. It was too ridiculous. Lord Left Minister, save me, save me. Xiang Qingyun did not care that the bones in his leg were broken, and forcibly used his origin power to solidify it. Pa, 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 he ran in front of the Left Minister and knelt down loudly, kowtowing repeatedly. Though the Left Minister had witnessed the death of an elite of the heavenly body tier, he did not know the role that Xiang Qingyun had played in this matter. He was baffled. In his mind, how could a mere mountain river tier have the ability to offend an elite of the heavenly body tier? He waved his hand and said, "Get up first." What happened? This was a dog that he had raised, after all. In front of outsiders, he still had to protect him a little. How could Xiang Qingyun dare to get up? He continued to kowtow and said, "Milord, save me. Milord, save me." The Left Minister chuckled, thinking that Xiang Qingyun had been scared silly by the scene of being killed by an elite of the heavenly body tier. He stretched out a hand to pat Xiang Qingyun's shoulder and said, "Don't be nervous. I am here, so there is no need for you to worry." Ling Han also smiled and said, "The Left Minister is really considerate of his subordinates." How could the Left Minister know that all this had been instigated by Xiang Qingyun? He did not dare believe it either, and even thought that Ling Han was really praising him. Involuntarily, the smile on his face became even wider. If it had been in the past, if Ling Han dared to say such things, not only would he not be happy, he would instead fly into a great rage. "Who do you think you are, actually daring to praise me? Do you think you are my superior?" But now Ling Han spoke with his strength, and the Left Minister was instantly overwhelmed by the favor. The same words, even if they were praises, would have completely different effects when spoken by different people. It's what I should do, what I should do." The Left Minister was all smiles, appearing to be very happy. Ling Han also smiled and then said slowly, "Brother Xiang is also astonishingly courageous. Previously, when I was dining with a few of my brothers in a restaurant, Brother Xiang insisted that we change places and vacate a private room for him. Later, he even wanted my wife to drink with him." Pooh! The Left Minister instantly spluttered, his face turning green. Holy shit! He looked at Xiang Qingyun, and Xiang Qingyun was trembling as if he had contracted an illness. "Your courage is really fat. Asking a great elite of the heavenly body tier to give him a private room, and even asking a great elite of the heavenly body tier to drink with him, why don't you ascend to the heavens? Fuck, I was tricked by Zhao Luan just now, and now you want to trick me too? What vendetta? What vendetta?" The Left Minister was infuriated and immediately lashed out at Xiang Qingyun. What did he mean by sympathizing with his subordinates? To hell with sympathizing. He was about to get himself killed, and he still wanted to sympathize? Why didn't anyone sympathize with him? The speed at which he changed his attitude was unexpected. The people nearby were all dumbfounded. Looking at the furious ministers were beating up his lackey without a care for his image, their outlook on life was about to collapse. "Is this really Prime Minister Zhua? Sir, spare me. Sir, spare me." Xiang Qingyun screamed. He had not thought that before Ling Han had even made a move, it would be the Left Minister who would take his life first. But the Left Minister had made a huge mistake, so he obviously had to try his best to clear his name. Otherwise, if Ling Han misunderstood that he was shielding Xiang Qingyun, what would happen then? Xiang Qingyun's voice grew softer and softer, and in the end he breathed no more. He had been beaten to death. He died with everlasting regret. It was really the Left Minister's success and the Left Minister's failure. The reason he was able to live in glory was because he had latched onto the Left Minister's thigh, but it was also because he had latched onto this thigh that he had become unbridled and extremely ambitious. Otherwise, he would not have gone to provoke Ling Han. In the end, the Left Minister moved, and beat him to death. No matter how popular a lackey was, he was still a lackey. Everyone's gaze towards Ling Han was filled with reverence. This kind of elite was already above the left and right ministers, and the 7 generals. Even the Lord Left Minister had been scared to such a state. If the 9 kings did not appear, who could suppress Ling Han? Because the gap in cultivation level was too great, even if Ling Han had asked Lin Yu and the others to stay and chat with them for a while, they were all incredibly restrained, and could not even speak clearly. Ling Han did not force them. After giving them some alchemical pills, he asked them to leave. Ling Han had the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden and the others first make do in the inn, while he himself went to the Scarlet Heaven Academy. With Ling Han's current strength, there was absolutely no one here that could stop him. In fact, they did not even have the right to discover him. Very soon he arrived at the library. Old Man Su was still the same as before. He was sitting with his eyes closed, resting. Chapter 1410. Previously, Ling Han couldn't tell what powerful aspects Old Man Su had, but this time, Ling Han discovered that Old Man Su was definitely in the heavenly body tier, or even in the high extreme or consummate level. Because he couldn't tell, however, the old man's cultivation level seemed to have been sealed, and he exuded an unusual weakness. "Senior," Ling Han called out. "You've returned." Old Man Su didn't open his eyes, as if he was listless. "I've heard that you killed Zhao Jianbai with a single strike, and your battle prowess should have advanced into the high extreme of the heavenly body tier." Ling Han smiled and said, "I went to the Long Light Galaxy and stayed there for over 10 years. Since you've also advanced into the heavenly body tier, there's no need to call me senior. Furthermore, I'm not very old," Old Man Su said. However, he clearly said he wasn't very old, yet called himself an old man. Ling Han shook his head and said, "In my heart, senior will always be senior." Old Man Su couldn't help but laugh loudly. He finally opened his eyes, nodded, and said, "You're a good person. I didn't make the wrong choice. I finally didn't make the wrong choice." "Senior made the wrong choice?" Ling Han couldn't help but ask. "Haha, that's only natural. This old man has stayed here for over 100,000 years and has given guidance to many of the younger generation. However, all of them are ungrateful. Even though their cultivation bases were successful, none of them ever returned." Old Man Su sighed. Ling Han smiled and said, "Senior should not have to wait anymore in the future." He took out the highest jade essence heart. Highest jade essence heart. Old Man Su suddenly jumped up. It was very hard to imagine that an old man who was on the verge of death, and looked like he would die at any moment, would actually jump 3 feet high. Even Ling Han was slightly dumbfounded. Old Man Su snatched the highest jade essence heart, and the aura he exuded at that moment was definitely one that could kill anyone who stood in his way. "Brat, wait here for a night. I have something to say to you." Leaving behind these words, Old Man Su entered the library. Strangely, he actually opened a secret door and entered into the basement. Ling Han didn't follow up. He was told to wait here. Although he was very curious, and although Old Man Su's cultivation base was sealed and he was definitely no match for him, Ling Han still didn't move. How could he be rude to someone he was indebted to? The night passed, and Old Man Su reappeared. His face was filled with intense fatigue, but there was even more excitement. There was a joy that came from the bottom of his heart. "Come, have a seat." Old Man Su invited Ling Han into the library and moved a chair for him. "My name is Su Ran." Old Man Su revealed his identity. Su Ran 300,000 years ago, the first genius who came from opening the sky used only a few thousand years to reach the great circle of the sun and moon. That wasn't right. When Su Ran had opened the sky and come here, he had only been in the shattering void tier. Now, he was in the consummate level of the heavenly body tier, and his lifespan had reached 40 million years. In this way, Su Ran's vitality should be at its most vigorous period, and it would continue for at least 20 million years. How could he be so old and on the verge of death? No wonder he had previously said that he wasn't old. He was only over 300,000 years old, and compared to Zhao Jianbai, the left minister, and the others, he was who knew how much younger. After I advanced into the consummate level of the Sun-Moon tier, I left the Joint Peace planet to train and improve myself, Su Ran continued. However, I didn't have a cultivation technique for the heavenly body tier at that time, and I was stuck at that threshold all along. Only after 30,000 years did I obtain a divine technique in an ancient site, and that was the universal 8 desolation technique that I passed on to you, and I used it to break through to the heavenly body tier. After that, my journey was very smooth, and I obtained many fated chances. I only used a few 100,000 years to reach the consummate level of the heavenly body tier. Then I met the true love of my life. There was a gentle look in the old man's eyes, and he sank into his memories. After a long while, he said, "We traveled the world together, living as happily as immortals. However, because of my persistence, we entered a dangerous ancient land. As a result, she was cursed, and medical stones were of no effect. I used my own life force to prolong her life, and searched everywhere for a way to cure her. After 10,000 years, I finally found out that only the highest jade essence heart could dispel the curse on her body. But at that time, I had also weakened to the limit, and could no longer prolong her life. I had long heard that among the treasures stored in the imperial palace of the chaotic star's majestic empire, there was a treasure called the 9 Hells Ice Coffin. If a corpse was placed inside, it would never rot, and if a living person was placed inside, it would be able to seal their body in ice. Even if they were gravely ill, it would be able to seal their vitality. Thus, I returned to the Joint Peace planet, planning to steal this treasure. In the end, I was suppressed by the Empress. However, when the Empress found out about my experience, she actually lent the 9 Hells Ice Coffin to me, but also sealed my cultivation level and did not allow me to leave. Thus, I could only ask for help from the people here, hoping that one day, they would be able to retrieve the highest jade essence heart for me." He spoke for a long time and finally stopped. Realization dawned on Ling Han. No wonder Su Ran, who should have been in his prime, was now aging prematurely. It was also no wonder that such an elite would remain here, because it was impossible for him to leave. This indeed suited the style of the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire, proud yet compassionate. She did not kill Su Ran and his woman, and instead lent him the 9 Hells Ice Coffin, giving Su Ran a sliver of hope. "But you barged into my imperial palace, and still wanted to leave as if nothing had happened? Of course not." Thus, the Empress suppressed Su Ran here. "If you want to save your woman, then you'll have to think of another way." Ling Han thought for a moment, and asked, "Has she recovered now?" "Her vitality has been greatly damaged, but with a little more time to recuperate, she will definitely recover to her original state," Su Ran said with a smile. His current mood was very good. Ling Han nodded and said, "When the Empress comes out of seclusion, I will persuade her to release the seal on your body. Moreover, you have no use for the 9 Hells Ice Coffin now, so it can be returned to its rightful owner." Su Ran was naturally overjoyed, but he immediately shook his head and said, "That Empress? Ho, she will not easily listen to the persuasion of others. You had better not go, or it is very likely that your actions will be sealed like mine. Who knows, you might even be thrown away." Ling Han only smiled and did not say anything else. When the day came that Su Ran came holding the Empress's hand, no, holding her waist, would Su Ran's outlook on life collapse? He really looked forward to it. After chatting for a while with Su Ran, this prodigy of the previous generation was also considerably interested in the Star San Martial Arts Academy. If the seal was released by then, he would set out together with Ling Han. Ling Han still left the imperial capital. His present abilities were too strong, and no one could be at ease if he stayed in the imperial capital. Thus, the group set out, heading towards the Great Ling Empire. A nation could not be without a ruler for a single day, and he, the ruler, had finally returned. Chapter 1412. The 3 dynasties had many territories that bordered each other. Therefore, wars were common occurrences. They would break out every year, or even every month. However, the scale of the wars was very small, and most of them were caused by cultivators below the divine level. But this time was different, completely different. The two majestic empires each had a heavenly body tier elite leading them, and they charged into the chaotic star's majestic empire. In a mere 3 days, they conquered a large area of territory, and they didn't stop, pointing their swords directly at the imperial capital. It looked like the two majestic empires wanted to take down the chaotic star's majestic empire in one go, and the joint peace planet would return to the situation of two empires fighting for supremacy. This was indeed an excellent opportunity because Empress Luanxing and the 9 kings were in seclusion, and the elites in the imperial court were only the 2 ministers, the 7 generals, and Chu Qiushua. Now, there were only 6 generals left. The two majestic empires obviously had their own concerns as well. Were Empress Luanxing and the 9 kings really in seclusion or not? After almost 30 years, they finally couldn't hold back anymore, and brazenly launched an invasion. As long as they conquered the whole territory, Empress Luanxing wouldn't be able to draw power of the nation even if she came out of seclusion. However, the Eternity Sky Emperor and Jade Drop Emperor were different. As their territory expanded, they could turn from guest to host. Ling Han immediately had everyone prepare, planning to face the powerful enemies, but 3 days later, another news came. The scale of the invasion of the two majestic empires increased further, from 1 army led by 1 heavenly body tier to 10 armies led by 10 heavenly body tier elites. Moreover, it was said that the 2 emperors were personally leading the troops. After receiving this news, Ling Han immediately gave up on the idea of leading an army to face the attack, and decided to travel alone. First of all, the Great Ling Empire's military strength wasn't enough to fight against the two majestic empires. Once these 2 giants revealed their true demonic claws, they would have an overwhelming advantage. If it was only an army, then Ling Han only had to kill the heavenly body tier elite leading the army, and the rest were mediocre. He could deal with them with heaven's might alone. But now, the 2 emperors had set out. Although Ling Han was confident his current battle prowess could suppress the early stage of the consummate level of the heavenly body tier, but the 2 emperors were not only at the peak stage of the consummate level of the heavenly body tier, but also 4-star geniuses. Wherever the army advanced, it was equivalent to the extension of their territory. With the addition of the power of the nation, how could they match them? Thus, Ling Han wasn't going to attack the invaders this time. Instead, he was only going to protect Empress Luanxing, draw her into the Black Tower, and take her away. As long as she could complete her breakthrough and possess battle prowess on par with the pinnacle level, she would become the strongest elite on Joint Peace Planet, or even the whole galaxy. Even if the Eternal Heaven God Realm and the Blue Sky Monarchs worked together, she would still be able to suppress them with a single hand. But now, they had no choice but to admit defeat. Ling Han discussed it with the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden and the others, and asked them to stay behind in the Great Ling Empire. This time, he was going to secretly bring someone back, so there was no need to mobilize a large force. Moreover, the others could not help him much either. Though the Heavenly Phoenix Divine Maiden and the others were unwilling, they could only nod in agreement. If they went, they could only stay in the Black Tower as guests. Without further ado, Ling Han set off immediately. He moved at lightning speed, and very soon entered the territory of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire. As he went deeper, he also obtained more information. The two majestic empires were advancing at an astonishing speed, and in a short few days, they had already occupied half of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire. Meanwhile, the left and right ministers and the 6 generals' countermeasure was to pull back and retreat to the imperial city. This was a wise move. Otherwise, even if they fought with their lives on the line, who could be a match for the 2 emperors? However, it was precisely this kind of decision that caused the territory to fall even faster. Now, everyone was defending the imperial city to the death. With the protection of the Great Formation, added with the combined efforts of 9 heavenly body tier elites, even the 2 emperors in the consummate level of the heavenly body tier might not be able to defeat them. Several days later, Ling Han arrived at the foot of the imperial city. "Please open the formation," Ling Han called out to the top of the city walls. Right now, he was an absolute bringer of misfortune. There were only a few heavenly body tier elites on Joint Peace Planet, yet 20 years ago he had killed quite a few of them as if he were cutting vegetables. Naturally, he was infamous. Thus, someone quickly went to make a report, and then 4 heavenly body tier elites arrived. Chu Qiushue, the left and right ministers, and Sha Jing. Right now, the enemy's army could arrive at the city at any time. If this person is an enemy spy, then once the formation is opened, this person will coordinate with us from the inside. What should we do then? Sha Jing said. Fuck, how could I be a spy? The Empress is my wife. Ling Han said in his mind. However, his relationship with Empress Luanxing was only limited to them. The others did not know at all, because this also involved the secret of the 9-snake tribe. Sha Jing's words were not completely slander. If Ling Han really was a spy, then at this time, if there was the slightest mistake, they would lose everything. Their only hope of turning the tables now was Empress Luanxing. As long as the Empress successfully broke out of seclusion, she would definitely be more powerful than before. Previously, she could already rival the 2 emperors, and after she came out of seclusion, she would definitely have a crushing advantage. This was everyone's hope. It made them decide to defend the imperial capital to the death, and also decided that they could not be the slightest bit careless. Even Chu Qiushue revealed a cautious expression. After all, Ling Han was only the ruler of a subordinate nation. Could his loyalty be guaranteed? Moreover, the current Ling Han was too powerful. If he deliberately wanted to cause trouble, who could stop him? Ling Han, are you here to help? She asked. That's right. Ling Han nodded. With us standing guard in this city, we can guarantee that it won't be lost, Chu Qiushue said. You can patrol outside and bring back some information. When Her Majesty comes out of seclusion, she will naturally give you some credit. Ling Han could not help but smile bitterly. He came to help his wife, but was still suspected by others? What was going on? However, no matter how he explained, Chu Qiushue and the others shook their heads firmly, unwilling to let Ling Han enter the city. Right now, stability was the most important thing. They could not afford to make any mistakes. It wasn't that Ling Han had never thought of forcing his way in, but first of all, whether or not he could break through the formation was a problem. Second, if he just broke through the formation and the 2 majestic empires just happened to attack, then he would really be a spy. Since these people were so confident that the formation could stop the 2 emperors, Ling Han could only trust them. He sat down on a distant mountain. Once the armies of the 2 majestic empires reached the city, or even broke through the formation, he would make a move. No matter what, he had to save his wife. Days passed, and just half a month later, 10 flags could be seen fluttering in the wind. The 2 majestic empires had already conquered all of their territories except for the imperial capital. Their armies were officially at the gates of the city. At this moment, the power of the 2 majestic empires was incomparably strong. Above the imperial city, the totem of the 9 mountains was incomparably dim. The territory, the population, and the overall strength of the citizens all determined the strength of a nation. Those who submit to me live, and those who oppose me die. The Eternity Sky Emperor was dressed in golden armor. His severed arm had long since been regenerated, and he looked awe-inspiring. Hurry up and open the city gates. Otherwise, all of you will perish together with this city. Chapter 1413. On the other side, the Jade Drop Emperor also stepped forward, his imperial might surging, subduing the enemy without a fight. Even though they were separated by a formation, everyone in the imperial capital paled in shock. Even the great elites of the heavenly body tier couldn't help but tremble. These weren't ordinary elites at the consummate level of the heavenly body tier. Rather, they were lofty emperors whose words were like law. Hurry up and open the city gates, the Jade Drop Emperor said in a menacing voice. Atop the city walls, the 9 heavenly body tier elites stood silently. The Eternity Sky Emperor chuckled coldly as he pointed forward and said, "Attack!" On the other side, the Jade Drop Emperor also issued a similar command. Instantly, multiple catapults appeared. They were 300 meters tall and 300 meters long, forming a massive structure that struck fear into the hearts of onlookers. These weren't ordinary catapults. They were engraved with formation seals and possessed terrifying destructive power. However, these catapults were too large, and it was very difficult to store them in a spatial spirit tool. Moreover, they were incredibly heavy, requiring the personal protection of a Sun-Moon tier elite. Otherwise, if they were crushed by the weight of these catapults, no one would be able to bear it. The 10 catapults were lined up in a row, each of them loaded with special projectiles made from godly metal. These projectiles were spherical and had a radius of 30 meters. Moreover, they were covered in sharp spikes. If one was accidentally struck by these projectiles, even a Sun-Moon tier elite could be killed on the spot. However, the accuracy of these projectiles was far too low. Moreover, the preparation time was astonishingly long, so it was completely unrealistic to use them to hit someone. If someone was hit by one of these projectiles, they could only blame their bad luck. They could only be used to attack cities. After all, cities were too large, so they could be hit no matter what. Moreover, cities wouldn't grow legs and run away, so they would become live targets. The catapults began to unleash their might. Since these siege weapons were specially made for this purpose, they naturally possessed powerful destructive power against large-scale formations. A single cannonball caused the light shield above the city to tremble, and it was on the verge of collapse. The elites in the city hurriedly used their own origin power to maintain the operation of the formation. Because they had adopted a retrenchment strategy, the Sun-Moon tier elites in the large cities near the imperial capital received orders almost immediately to move into the imperial capital. Thus, there were as many elites as there were clouds in the imperial capital now. There were tens of thousands of Sun-Moon tier elites, so it was naturally not a problem for them to support the operation of the formation. 1,000 people formed a batch and took turns to fight. It was almost impossible for them to be exhausted. But this is just the beginning. The catapults continued to fire, and soon a large number of soldiers started to attack the imperial city. As long as they exceeded the magic formation's limits, the magic formation would naturally be destroyed. This was what it meant to be able to break through everything with brute force. It didn't matter if he didn't know anything about formations. As long as he had enough strength, it didn't matter what it was. He would break it with brute force. The people of the imperial capital wouldn't sit still either. They all activated their defensive weapons, using their powerful bows and crossbows to counterattack. Immediately, a large number of people were killed or injured. It was easy to defend a city, but difficult to attack a city. This was how it was. However, the individual strength of a martial artist was too strong. It was possible for a supreme king to appear and take down a city with the strength of a single hand. This was a battle of attrition. The chaotic Star's majestic empire gathered the strength of the entire nation to defend to the death, while the other 2 majestic empires sent out all their elites. Their lineup was so luxurious that it was dazzling to the eyes. There really are so many elites. Ling Han's eyes swept over them. Though he was far away, he could still sense a large number of elites. Aside from the Eternity Sky Emperor and Jade Drop Emperor, there were also 3 elites who had reached the consummate level of the heavenly body tier. When they opened and closed their eyes, it was as if the sun had risen, dazzling. Can we defend? And how long can we defend? He murmured. The 2 majestic empires had come with the strength of their entire nation, so they should be confident in their victory. If they could be stopped by a city, it might not be underestimating the strength of the 2 majestic empires. More importantly, how long would it take to conquer the city? If they could hold out until Empress Luanxing came out of seclusion, then it would definitely be the victory of the defending side, and there would be no more chaotic Star's majestic empire. But who knew how long it would take for Empress Luanxing to come out of seclusion? It would be good to have some confidence, but now it was like a competition with no end, and it was very easy to lose confidence. After all, they were facing the strongest elites of the 2 majestic empires. Long, there was a series of deafening booms. The stone catapults tirelessly spat out cannonballs, and the 2 majestic empires also disregarded casualties, taking turns to pour in a large number of troops to attack the city, displaying their powerful determination. They were determined to conquer this city. On the third day, heavenly body tier elites also joined the attack. They stood proudly in the air, drawing on the power of the stars in the sky, all of them unleashing powerful attacks. This was too terrifying. In battle, who dared to spend a few breaths' time to unleash a powerful attack? To say nothing of a few breaths' time, even if they were slow for a moment, they could be killed. But here, no one could disturb them, and they could accumulate power as they pleased. Heavenly body tier elites could draw on the power of the stars, drawing on endless power. One meteor after another appeared, burning with flames, crashing down like a rain of fire. They had clearly obscured the sun, and should have been pitch black, but because of the burning meteors, there was boundless light. The people in Point Star City all felt their scalps go numb, and those who were more timid directly sat on the ground, unable to get up no matter how hard they tried. Even Chu Qiuxue and the other great elites of the heavenly body tier wore solemn expressions, cold sweat dripping down their faces. Could the formation block this? The meteors crashed down, and the formation trembled violently. The light shield swayed like ripples in water. Get out of the way! The 9 heavenly body tier elites hurriedly sent the people in the center of the formation flying. They personally maintained the formation, and with the endless supply of power, the formation finally stabilized. However, this was no good. There were close to 100 heavenly body tier elites in the 2 majestic empires, but there were only 9 of them. Their opponents could take turns to rest, but if they had to maintain the formation, there would come a time when they would run out of power in 1 year, 5 years, or even 10 years. We have to take turns. The 9 heavenly body tier elites took turns, and each of them could maintain the formation for a day. Additionally, with the help of some sun-moon tier elites, they could just barely maintain the formation. Now, the situation had stabilized again. Ling Han also relaxed slightly and sat back down. However, a mere 5 days had passed, and the situation changed drastically. The formation of Point Star City suddenly disappeared. It hadn't been destroyed, but rather disappeared on its own. It was as if the people in the city had voluntarily turned off the formation. What was going on? Were they seeking death? What's going on? Why did the formation suddenly turn off? Heavens, what do we do now? The city instantly descended into chaos. The formation had turned off, so how were they going to resist the invasion of the 2 majestic empires? We're done for, we're done for. Everyone, let's take down this city. The Eternity Sky Emperor roared with laughter. He drew his sword and pointed it forward. Ling Han frowned deeply. He was also completely confused as to why the formation had suddenly lost its effect. However, he didn't hesitate at all and charged toward Point Star City. Chapter 14:14. Ling Han charged out. Anyone who dared to stop him from saving his wife could die. His killing intent was boiling, and he was like a demon god. Because he had charged into the city from outside, the others had initially thought that he was one of their own. However, it wasn't long before someone realized that something was off. This was far too unfamiliar. Everyone at the immortal level or above had ridiculously good memories. Moreover, there were only tens of thousands of sun-moon tier elites in the Jade Drop Majestic Empire, so why hadn't they seen this person before? No one dared to guess that Ling Han was a heavenly body tier elite, even though his speed was ridiculously fast. Who are you? A cold humph sounded as someone blocked his way. Ling Han couldn't be bothered to waste words. He was focused on traveling and didn't want to waste time. Thus, although his killing intent was boiling, he didn't attack anyone. However, now that someone had blocked his way, he naturally wouldn't be polite. He waved his hand, and this person was instantly smashed into pieces. As blood rained down, Ling Han's figure dashed out, and he didn't stop. However, in this way, he naturally became the target of everyone, and it was difficult for him to advance quietly. There's a spy. Take him down. Kill him. Instantly, over a dozen people charged over. They were all at the sun-moon tier, and heavenly body tier elites were in the sky. Naturally, they couldn't alert them at the sight of an enemy. Ling Han couldn't even be bothered to attack. In any case, his physique was almost comparable to level 12 godly metal, so it didn't matter even if he was attacked by 100 million Sun-Moon tier elites. He only channeled the aura of a heavenly body tier elite and quickly advanced. If he traveled in the sky, he would be attacked by heavenly body tier elites. In comparison, it was naturally faster to travel on the ground. One had to know that the Jade Drop Majestic Empire wasn't an upstart like the Chaotic Stars Majestic Empire that had only been established for 1 million years. There was a clear hierarchy of elites in the empire, and among the heavenly body tier, there were low extreme, consummate level, medium extreme, and high extreme. Thus, if Ling Han was targeted by those at the high extreme of the heavenly body tier, even if they couldn't stop him, they would at least slow him down. Ping 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 ping. Ling Han turned into an angry arrow that shot through the crowd. As his aura swept past, the Sun-Moon tier elites that had charged over all froze and were instantly sent flying, turning into a rain of blood. On the battlefield, Ling Han was merciless, displaying his iron-blooded side. Not good. This isn't a Sun-Moon tier elite, but a great elite of the heavenly body tier. Someone exclaimed in the distance. Hurry up and inform all the powerhouses. Cries of astonishment rang out. Very quickly, the heavenly body tier elites overseeing the battle in the sky also discovered the anomaly, and they all turned their attention to Ling Han. How audacious! You actually dared to ambush us from behind and kill the soldiers of our majestic empire. You're seeking death. A heavenly body tier elite moved, and from over 10 miles away, he launched a palm strike that drew on the power of the stars. A large hand of origin power appeared in front of Ling Han. Ling Han didn't dodge or evade. He didn't even stop moving forward as he crashed into the giant hand. Bam! His figure forcefully crashed out of the large hand, leaving a trail of dust in his wake. Meanwhile, the large hand naturally had a large hole in it. In the sky, the great elite of the heavenly body tier gave a muffled groan. A bloody hole had shockingly appeared in his right hand. Although it was the large hand of origin power that Ling Han had crashed into, he had still suffered light injuries due to the influence of his aura. He couldn't help but be stunned because he clearly knew that Ling Han hadn't moved at all. He had merely crashed into the large hand of origin power, yet the resulting impact had destroyed his large hand of origin power. In fact, it had even caused damage to his body. What kind of physique was this? What kind of destructive power was this? He was practically a human-shaped divine weapon. Stop him at all costs, a great elite of the heavenly body tier said coldly. Instantly, the soldiers below got into formation and wanted to combine their strength to stop Ling Han. Ling Han crashed over, and instantly, the soldiers scattered like flowers in the sky. They couldn't stop his advance at all. In fact, those who were sent flying were forcibly shattered in the air. Whether they were at the Mountain River tier or the Sun-Moon tier, they were completely unqualified to stop him. This time, the expressions of the great elites of the heavenly body tier all changed. Inconceivable! When Sun-Moon tier elites got into formation, not only would they be able to unleash greater power, but more importantly, they would be able to distribute the power they received. This would allow Sun-Moon tier elites to be able to rival heavenly body tier elites. Of course, this was only possible on the battlefield. Otherwise, there wouldn't be enough of them, and it would be useless even if they joined forces. However, Ling Han only crashed into the large formation, and it collapsed with a loud boom. He was like a raging bull that didn't care about the rules at all. He didn't understand the rules, either. He simply relied on brute force to charge through. He relied on his great physical strength and powerful physique to charge through. Humph! Another heavenly body tier elite moved, shooting out a streak of sword light that quickly caught up to Ling Han and slashed toward his back. Ling Han frowned. This was an elite at the high extreme of the heavenly body tier, and he was just barely qualified to wound him. I can't stop. Ling Han immediately made a decision, and his figure was still as swift as the wind. The protective formation had been closed for no reason, so a huge change had definitely occurred in Point Star City. He had to rush over immediately. Poof! The sword light arrived and slammed into Ling Han's back. His clothes instantly fluttered like butterflies, and a bloody mark appeared on his jade-like back, from which blood immediately seeped out. However, the heavenly body tier elites of the Jade Drop Majestic Empire didn't show any joy upon seeing this. Instead, they were incredibly astonished. Fuck, what kind of physique is this? It's too freakish. One had to realize that the person who had attacked was an elite at the peak stage of the high extreme of the heavenly body tier. Furthermore, he was a 4-star genius, and the might of his sword strike was almost on par with the peak stage of the consummate level. Who would dare to take this strike head-on with their physique? It was clear that Ling Han's speed hadn't decreased, and he had clearly spent all of his energy on advancing. Thus, his defenses were definitely extremely weak. More importantly, he was only at the medium extreme, so what if he defended with all his might? However, this wasn't the most astonishing thing. Soon, the heavenly body tier elites all sucked in a breath of cold air. The wound on Ling Han's back was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. There wasn't even a scar left behind. If it weren't for the traces of blood, who would believe that Ling Han had actually been struck by a sword just then? Shio. Ling Han had already charged into Point Star City, leaving behind a trail of dust. With the speed of a heavenly body tier elite, how long would it take for him to cover such a short distance? The great elites of the Jade Drop Majestic Empire all smirked coldly. Wasn't entering Point Star City the same as walking right into a trap? Fine, they would just let him fall along with the city. After entering the city, Ling Han immediately unleashed his divine sense to scan the surroundings. He discovered that there were 8 powerful auras gathered in one place, and he immediately rushed over with a few leaps. Chu Qiushue and the left and right ministers appeared before him. What's going on? Why has the protective formation been closed? Ling Han roared. Chu Qiushue and the others immediately became wary. Right now, any outsider could be a powerful enemy. Ling Han's eyes swept over them. There were a few great generals that he hadn't seen before. However, he only glanced at them before frowning and asking, "Where's Ding Liyun?" There were only 8 heavenly body tier elites here. The left minister's expression darkened, and he said, "Today just so happens to be Ding Li's turn to guard the core of the formation." Then he must have destroyed the formation and purposefully led the enemy in. Ling Han immediately came to a realization. His heart involuntarily jolted, and he hurriedly asked Chu Qiushue, "Where is His Majesty cultivating in seclusion? Quick, take me there." Reading on a mobile phone. Chapter 14-16. Ling Han didn't plan to ask any more questions. Perhaps Ding Li, and also knew the secret that the 9 kings were all clones of Empress Luanxing, otherwise, he wouldn't have dared to take such a risk. After all, as long as one of the 9 kings was in a clear-headed state, they would be able to make a move. If they unleashed their power at the consummate level of the heavenly body tier, even a cultivator at the high extreme would be insta-killed. The secret of the 9 snake clan should be kept forever. Ling Han, it was a huge miscalculation that I didn't kill you back then. Ding Li, and raised his right palm, and it instantly turned snow-white like jade. Even his skin became transparent, and he could feel his blood flowing and the bones in his fingers. White jade sky fiend palm. The right minister said with a trembling voice. Hiss, Chu Qiushue and the others all paled. This was a very, very powerful secret technique, but it was not too secretive. Those who had reached the heavenly body tier would be able to enter the treasury of the imperial family to read, but after so many years, not a single person had successfully cultivated it. It's too hard. However, Ding Li and shocked everyone once again. This was definitely a super prodigy. Within 1,000,000 years, he had leaped from the low extreme of the heavenly body tier to the high extreme, so it did not seem strange that he could cultivate the white jade murderous heaven palm. With a slap of his palm, a baleful aura surged and destroyed everything. To say nothing of those at the medium extreme of the heavenly body tier, even those at the high extreme of the heavenly body tier would feel a murderous aura seeping through their bodies if they were struck by this palm strike. They would have to resist with all their might, or they would definitely die. The killing intent in Ling Han's eyes grew even more intense. Fuck, you actually dare to covet my wife? You're courting death. Thinking about it in his mind was everyone's freedom, and he couldn't control it. But since you dared to take action, don't blame him for being merciless. Ling Han rushed out without dodging at all. You're courting death. Ding Li said coldly. He had endured for so many years, and now he could finally reveal his true self. This gave him an indescribable sense of joy. Ling Han unsheathed his wooden sword. It seemed that this sword would undergo an inexplicable change after drinking the blood of a strong warrior. Under normal circumstances, he would naturally not recklessly kill people. He slashed out with his sword, using Tide of the Ages. The baleful aura instantly aged and lost all its power. What? Ding Li turned pale with fright. That was the white jade heaven's baneful palm. Even he had spent 300,000 years to master it. He was confident that he would be able to kill any opponent whose cultivation base was lower than his with a single palm strike. There was no way there would be a second possibility. However, he actually couldn't kill an elite at the medium extreme of the heavenly body tier? No. Not only had he not killed him, he actually didn't even have the right to stop him. That wooden sword was already slashing toward him. Humph! A long staff appeared. Ding Li An's proudest weapon was a staff. It had accompanied him for countless years, and his heart was already connected to it. He immediately blocked the attack. As the sword descended, the staff was immediately cut into two. The sword's momentum did not stop and continued to descend. Pooh! Ding Li immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. This staff was connected to his mind, so when it was broken, he also felt as if he had been heavily slashed by a sword. His expression withered greatly. But the sword fell. He wanted to retreat, but the stone chamber was right behind him. How could he retreat? Besides, Ling Han had attacked in anger. How could he possibly dodge it? Pooh! Ding Li was instantly sliced into two. The wooden sword was bathed in blood, and the divine patterns on it became even more distinct. They wriggled like snakes and exuded an evil aura. This was a precious tool of the netherworld. Ling Han came to a realization. No wonder it was so evil. He faintly felt an urge to go crazy and kill. He humphed in his mind. Could it be that he couldn't deal with a sword? Chu Qiushue and the others were all numb, and they were completely speechless. In the past, Zhao Jianbai had been killed by a single strike of Ling Han's sword, but he had only been in the low extreme after all. Now, however, Ding Li, who was in the high extreme, had also been killed with a single strike. Just how powerful had Ling Han become? Ling Han walked forward and also began to break the restrictions. He was about to open the stone door. At this time, he could tell what was going on. The left and right ministers didn't make a sound. Only Chu Qiushue asked, "What are you doing?" "Of course I'm opening the door and taking my wife away. Don't tell me I'm just going to wait for death here?" Ling Han humphed softly. However, although he had some attainments in formations, the difficulty of the formation before him had clearly surpassed his limits. He couldn't break it in a short time. If he had known this would happen, he would have taken his time and waited for Ding Li to break the restriction before killing him. Pa. Applause suddenly rang out. An incredibly domineering figure descended from the sky, and there were at least 50 elites standing in a row behind him. They were all flying in the air. They were all at the heavenly body tier. The person in the lead was the Eternity Sky Emperor. He looked down at them with disdain and said, "Why aren't you kneeling to greet me?" Boom! A terrifying might enveloped them, and even those at the same level as him couldn't help but tremble. Ling Han turned around. Now that the situation had changed, it was clear that his plan of opening the restriction and taking Empress Luanxing away could no longer be used. Not only that, but he also had to turn the tables. Right now, he had to guard the stone room and prevent anyone from approaching. King of Curses, you've lost your arm once, yet you haven't learned your lesson. You want to lose it a second time? He immediately unleashed a powerful attack. The heavenly body tier elites behind the Eternity Sky Emperor were in an uproar. Their empress had actually lost her arm before. Moreover, judging from Ling Han's tone, it was related to him. Gasp. This brat is far too powerful. The Eternity Sky Emperor's expression darkened. He had lost an arm in order to retrieve the 9 Tribulation Sword, and only he and his younger brother knew about this. How could a third person know about this? He absolutely didn't believe that Chang Tao would tell anyone else about this. Moreover, Ling Han was far too insulting. He had actually called him the King of Curses. However, he couldn't defend himself. If he said that his arm had nothing to do with Ling Han, and that it had been severed by the ancestral tool of his clan, it would only make things worse and ruin his reputation. Moreover, was this really the time to defend himself? Who will capture this person for me? He asked calmly. As the ruler of a nation, he naturally wouldn't act rashly. I'm not too late, am I? Another domineering figure descended. This was the Jade Drop Emperor, and he also had a large number of heavenly body tier elites with him. Everyone's faces were ashen. Apart from surrendering or dying in battle, was there a third option? I'll do it. A stooped elder appeared. There was an air of death around his body, and it was clear that he didn't have much lifespan left. However, the aura that he exuded was incredibly terrifying. Since he was able to address himself as I in front of the Eternity Sky Emperor, he naturally wasn't simple. He was an elite at the consummate level of the heavenly body tier. In fact, he had even made a name for himself before the Eternity Sky Emperor. It was also because of this that he was about to reach the end of his lifespan. He stared at Ling Han, his eyes filled with curiosity, greed, and even more so anticipation. This young man was able to advance to the heavenly body tier in such a short time, so he definitely had a massive secret. If he could obtain this secret, he might be able to use it to break through to the Eternal River tier. Not only would his lifespan increase explosively, but he would also regain his vitality. Moreover, he would be able to look down on the entire world and rule over an entire galaxy. This naturally made him greedy. In fact, he was slightly worried about his own gains and losses. What if Ling Han had only consumed some kind of great medicine? Young man, surrender obediently, and I can spare you a bit of suffering. He stretched out a hand, which transformed into a massive, pitch-black palm. How could Ling Han block an attack from someone at the peak stage of the consummate level of the heavenly body tier? That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.